Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for the first Champions League preview of the new season. I'm excited. Of course, tomorrow night isn't the biggest opponent of our group in terms of, prestige of the opponent, shall we say. But it's still exciting to get back into the Champions League, especially with how a lot of Premier League games have gone for us this season. I'm excited to be involved in a different competition where I don't already have to have Arsenal be top of the league. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to worry about Arsenal in the Champions League because them clowns aren't in it. So that's fantastic. As you can see on screen already, we are already joined by Pies. As always, pick up my bro. Charlie will join us very soon, and also Felix will join us in, a few minutes' time. So they should all be here very, very soon. For now, it's just myself and Pies. So Pies, we'll start with you. First of all, how are you? Let's before we get into anything else, let's talk about Saturday again. Big win. Lucky in the end. We were talking yesterday. You think it's lucky. I think it's a 50-50. What I think we got really lucky with is VAR overturning it. I think if the ref initially ruled out the foul, I think no one could really complain that VAR didn't overturn it the other way, in my opinion. But I think we were lucky that VAR overturned it from goal standing to goal being disallowed. But of course, we also got unlucky in Antonio not getting sent off, a clear foul in the build-up to the first corner of their sequence, a clear foul in the second, or in my opinion, a pretty clear foul for the second corner, after which they scored. So it's swings and roundabouts, but in the end, a win, but not a good performance. So how do you view it? Just builds, any wins win, and we take any extra 3 points, any bit of confidence we can take from a win to hopefully start building momentum? Or is your opinion that we just need to start playing better? Like, it's every now and again you drop points, that happens, but we need to start playing better. Otherwise, we will not ever get on a good run.
Yeah, 100%, bro. I agree with that. Obviously, I was gassed after Havertz scored the late winner, but
yeah,
even with the disallowed goal, they literally, I just don't know how Chelsea, I just feel like this team is a little bit weak. Like, we literally scored, and then they go up the other end and score straight away. It's like that. I feel like there's this inevitability about Chelsea conceding at the moment, and it's like really frustrating. We just can't seem to make things easy for ourselves, and 100%, I do agree with you. We've got to play much, much better. We have to start playing better. And the negative approach from Tuchel in this game was, I'm sorry, I like Tuchel, but I can't really defend him on that game at the weekend, in my opinion. I mean, that first 45 minutes, mate, I have never seen so many people around the ground bored. Like, genuinely bored. Everyone was like looking at each other, like, what's going on? At half time, people weren't even really talking. They were just, it was this really eerie atmosphere. And that, that reflects on the coach and on the players. And it was just really interesting how I think, the even slightest chance we got, the stadium just erupted. And it's like, as much as Chelsea fans, we need to be better. The team also need to produce moments that make us excited, because that first 45 minutes was incredibly, incredibly boring. I thought the system looked like a 3-5-2 to me, was incredibly negative. And we had no
and the 3-5-2 without a real striker up front is even worse. It's even more defensive.
The problem was we had no width, and every time we had the ball with the centre backs, it was the same thing again. It was a slow pass into midfield, and then it was out wide again. And every time we went out wide, I was just not even excited, because I was like, right, who are we crossing to then? Who? And West Ham, to be fair, they did do very well defensively, but we didn't make it hard for them. You know what I mean? And they're just, I don't know, we're just shit at the moment, essentially. And I was watching Arsenal yesterday, and mate, I know they lost, but the football they were playing was fucking amazing. I was like genuinely jealous of watching Arsenal, and I'm just like, why can't we play like that? The combinations, the quick passing, the overload, everything. So yeah, I was frustrated about Chelsea, but at least we got the win. It's definitely annoying. It's getting on my nerves a little bit more now, because surely Tuchel watches this, and the managerial staff and everyone beyond Tuchel can't enjoy this. I'm sorry, it's got to change. It has to change. I don't know how, but coach them better. Do something, because we can't. We can't watch this sort of shit every single week in the Premier League. Because, by the way, when is the last time we had a good first 45 minutes? We make things incredibly hard for ourselves. It's ridiculous. We've not had a good 45 minutes in
Bloody since we played at Madrid,
games.
probably.
Yeah, it's mate. This is like the most common theme I've seen on the Tuchel. It's the first 45 minutes. We're essentially playing 45 minutes to win in the second half or get a
Can
result.
I ask
Because
you something, Pice? Do you potentially, now it didn't work out in the very end, but in the first half, as much as you said it was boring, we also for once actually stopped the team creating chances against us. And we haven't done that so far this season. Like maybe Everton, but even Everton had their moments, right? And Everton are really bad. And Leicester are really bad. And they had loads of moments. Like Leicester could have beat us. And see how bad they are to get spanked 5-2 by Brighton. And I know we were down to 10 men, but also in the first 20, I mean, we had chances, but missed a lot of them. So do you potentially think, because that's what the vibe I got yesterday, or on Saturday, sorry, that I think Tuchel, what he was trying to do was just bring some stability into the team. The
we
problem
had
is
so much of the ball, it was insane.
we had
And
so much of the ball, but also
we
for
didn't give
once we
them
didn't
any
concede
chances.
chances, right?
Yeah,
For once we didn't concede chances. But then obviously we went 1-0 down again, and then obviously we had to go for it a little bit more. We did in the end actually score our 2 goals, which is good. But obviously that then through all, added stability that maybe Tuchel tried to add with his system and our approach in the first half, out the wind again, and they had loads of chances again, because that's what I felt he was trying to do. Build some, almost what he yesterday or Saturday, almost felt like his first game. Remember the Wolves game at home? 0-0, dead. We did no attacking whatsoever in that game. All we did was make sure we don't concede. And that's basically what I felt the game against West Ham was, until we obviously conceded. And I felt maybe that's what he was trying to do, just to build some more confidence back into the team starting from the back. Now, it's not pretty. And let's be honest, the game against Wolves, that game wasn't pretty either. I had a feel, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but do you feel that could potentially have been the idea?
maybe. I mean, after the game, he did say, in terms of, I think he got asked about, I'm not sure whether it was after or maybe potentially a day after the game, he got asked about a new sporting director search, and he said, "Well, I'm not involved in that, because for the first time in 1.5 days since obviously the game, he said, like, I felt like I was a coach for once." So
Full-time coach again,
yeah, full-time coach. So I found that interesting, and hopefully, hopefully now, realistically, we can hopefully, get some more consistent results, because the attention is only on one thing. But I don't know, man. I can't, we have so many good players in that lineup. I can't defend, just how negative we was. Like, you've got Sterling, who was literally not involved. Like, how can you have a player of Sterling's ilk going forward just not involved? I just don't get it. We need to improve fast. And the main thing that bugs me, bro, is the set pieces. I have never ever seen in my lifetime the inevitability of someone scoring a set piece against us. It is
Even on the
genuine,
Lampard, it wasn't this bad, and we were
mate.
bad
It's,
at set
it's
pieces on the
genuinely
Lampard.
right. It's genuinely like a team gets a corner and the Chelsea players are thinking, "Oh shit, it's 1-0 already." Like, when they got that corner, the first one, I literally shit myself. The stadium went quiet as soon as they get any corners. That's bad. Like, we need to
And
sort
part
that
of
out.
it was that neither Havertz nor Brozier played, because having that strike at the front post for defending set pieces makes a big difference.
It's just a mess. But it's not even the front post though. It's when they go right in the middle there. We can't deal with it. I just don't understand. And obviously you can argue whether Mendy got his shirt tugged and all that, but it's still, can we go a few games without conceding a fucking set piece, please? Because it's doing my head in, honestly.
Conceding a goal, stopping to concede goals in general would be quite nice. We haven't kept a clean sheet since Everton, have we? Pretty sure we haven't.
No, we haven't, I don't think. No. Leicester scored.
So it's just a serious issue. Let me take it to Charlie. Charlie, thank you for being here. Appreciate it very much as always, bro. Before we get into talking about tomorrow's game against Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League, also because I haven't really, well, especially on stream, really spoken to you since the West Ham game. So what's your view of that in hindsight? Just take the positives at the fact that we got to win, or is it and hope that the fact that we won, even if obviously the whole world is losing their shit at VAR, which I frankly think is slightly ridiculous, compared to, even if you think it's a wrong decision, how can you possibly think it was a worse wrong decision than Correa's hair being ripped out and that not being given? How can you think that was worse than that? Even if you think it shouldn't have been a foul and the goal should have stood. Fair enough if you think that, right? Especially as West Ham fans. But how can people compare it, think it's worse than the... Anyway. Do you think we can still take confidence and positives from the fact that we won? Or is the bigger problem or the bigger concern The fact that we are still not playing well at all.
I think there's two things. Not playing well and losing is one thing. Not playing well and winning is slightly better. You can deal with that. If you're not playing well and you're winning, then you can you can work with that. But if you're not playing well and you're losing, then that's worse. So at the moment, we definitely need to play better. Of course we do. But if we're still picking up the points and we're still winning, I think that for me is the most important thing. The thing that Pies touched on, I think with Tuchel's comments after the game, that it was nice to feel like a football coach again. I think that's a big thing. I think people have underestimated how much extra curricular activities, as it were, that Thomas Tuchel has had to be taking on outside of his role in the last year or so at Chelsea. All the stuff with the sanctions, he was like the main spokesperson for the club, shielding stuff.
You mean he meant that for more longer term? I thought he meant that only for the summer, that he find it.
No, I just think in general, like, because this summer, like, for me, he's had all extra things that a manager shouldn't really be as involved in. They'll get they'll concentrate on stuff or whatever, but he's had to deal with a lot of extra things, and I think that slightly detracted away from his work on the training pitch and working with this group of players, which is why I do think now that the window's closed and there's no kind of distractions about everything, Bowley and co are taking care of contract extensions and whatnot. We can just solely focus on the football now. And I would expect us to get a little bit better. Look, don't make no mistakes about it. The game on Saturday was poor. First hour was atrocious. But there was one positive, though, is that the subs made a difference, and we actually had a reaction in that last half an hour and managed to win the game.
It helps when you play the worst players from the start, doesn't it? Because then you can bring on the better players.
Yeah, there's also that. But I think that was for me, the positive to take out of the game was the fact that A, we won, and B, we dug deep again and we found something. Like we found something against Leicester, and like we found something against West Ham. We may not have played well, but to find something in that last half an hour, I think that's a positive. But yeah, under no illusions that if we're going to be working our way back towards the top end of the table and wanting to win and challenge for the Premier League title, we've got to find a way of playing better. We've got to be better at attacking. As Pi said, you look at Arsenal, you look at Man United even. I mean, maybe not Liverpool so much this season, but teams that are quick on the ball, quick in a transition. Like Arsenal, they didn't win yesterday, but they weren't bad. Man United, counter-attacking side, they were decent. Like, they're so much quicker than us on the ball. Like, imagine that Bruno Fernandes pass to Rashford yesterday. No one's playing that in a Chelsea team. We've got players with the ability to do that, but no one's taking that pass.
Yeah, exactly. I think
they're not choosing. But they wouldn't even. And this is it. And this is like two things. Are they being coached this way to be a little bit more pragmatic, a little bit more conservative, or are they just scared that they're going to get battered by Tuchel if they try a pass and they give it away? I don't really know what it is, but I think we've got to find a way of players being able to express themselves a little bit more, and that if they give the ball away, it doesn't really matter. I've got no problem with players giving the ball away if they're trying something, because law of averages would suggest that if you try...
Would you not... Like, Hakim Ziyech is a good example for that. Hakim Ziyech is always known to try something, but too often it doesn't come off. Then we've had the stats of, he lost possession 29 times this game or whatever.
Yeah, but if the one time...
do complain about it in the end. So it's like...
but if you give away...
mean that? Or do we only say that because our players don't try enough?
But if you give the ball away 29 times, right, but on the 30th time you contribute to the winning goal, no one cares, do they?
I think the point is right now. I think the point is right now. I think someone like Ziyech playing in the team would be more appreciated because literally no one is trying these. No one's trying anything, like literally anything. I think I remember one moment last game against West Ham. I can't remember whether it was Silva or potentially Ruben from midfield. Sterling made a over-the-top run, and we actually went for it. The player went for it, and he didn't quite get it over his head. The defender headed it, but you could see like the crowd appreciated that. They were like, "Oh, you know what I mean?" Like someone like Ziyech right now might be, as much as he's frustrating, might be needed to unlock a door or something, because it's just so like. It's so like, you know what I mean? It's just a lot of nothing. And I think you don't want to see Ziyech start every game, but against some of these low block sides, you might as well, even bring him on early or something. Like, just do something, because players like Pulisic, Sterling, and things like that, they want the ball in, and Ruben, as much as I like him, like Kovacic, none of them were were trying these risky passes, taking too long on the ball. Like, it's too much
No,
out wide all
don't
the
throw
time.
Ruben into that. Ruben was playing as a single six in the last game.
He was so slow
That
on the
was not
ball,
his
though,
job
bro.
in the last game. No. We
He's
had
so
2
slow
to
on
do
the
that.
ball, though.
And your boy Kovacic didn't. Like, don't throw
So
Ruben under
slow
that.
on the ball, though, bro.
No, I'm not having it.
No, but he was so slow on the ball. That's what I was saying, just in general. Like, we need to pass it faster. Like,
Yeah, no, of
he's
course.
so
But
slow.
he's not the one that should be making the passes that leads us to goals.
But
when
he should
he's
be
playing at the
progressing
deep
the ball
six.
forward to
Yeah,
the players.
that
That's
I
what I'm
agree with
saying.
completely.
It's a team contribution thing, and it just wasn't. It wasn't there, and it hasn't been there all season. Like,
I just
even
wonder.
Absolutely. And
Jorginho as well, bro. Like, how many times this season have you seen him pick that ball up in the sixth position, quickly progress the ball into midfield? Like, you haven't. It's too slow. It's too fucking slow.
I
It's
just
easy.
wonder if
It's
they've
easy as
been-
well. Sorry,
Mate, do you think
just
Yeah, go on, crack on, mate.
I was just going to say one more thing. It's like, again, I think it was around the 60th minute. There was one moment where Thiago Silva, I think, passed the ball into middle of midfield. And literally, it was like, within a matter of like 3 seconds, we was on the attack and they were on the back foot. And it's like, so if you can do that only once during a game and that gets them on the back foot, why are you not doing that 5, 6, 7, 8 times? That's why the good teams attack well, because they do it constantly. And that's what I don't get with us. We do it so little. Like,
but do you think-
we don't find these spaces.
Do you think that's the way that the team's being coached, though? Because look, we haven't got,
Like, you see that clip of Gallagher, bro.
Yeah, but we
You see
haven't
that
got
clip of
bad
Gallagher?
players.
You see the clip of Gallagher where
Yeah.
Tuchel was like, pass it, pass, straight forward. And he just stood there, he froze. That happens so many times with other players as well. And I don't know why they're not playing those penetrative passes. But it doesn't help. It doesn't help
I
when
don't
the
know.
players...
I will highlight. I know everyone was like, "Oh, how are you comparing Loftus-Cheek and Messi?" That wasn't my intention in this at all. It just happened that them two had the similar numbers. I couldn't help that. It just happened to be that way, right? But I'll try to explain that in more detail, and I'll try to why I think that is a big problem for us. But one thing to take it back to Charlie before I bring Felix into the call. Charlie, you said it's positive that we did it against Leicester and that we did it against West Ham. I would agree with you had we not done it at Southampton. Because if we always had this kind of, okay, we don't play well, but we find a way to grind it through, that's okay for a certain period of time. But because you can't trust us to actually do that, Leeds, bottle it. Southampton, bottle it. And when I say bottle it, I don't mean, I mean basically capitulate, right? Yeah, turn up. But also once something goes against us, capitulate. While against West Ham and against Leicester, we didn't do that. Now, is that a home and away thing? I don't know. Just based off last season, it probably isn't, because our home form was the bad one, not the away form. So that's why I don't know if I can trust them. Sometimes they will deal with it once adversity hits us, and sometimes they won't. And you just don't know with this team. And it doesn't really matter who plays. The same thing can happen. It doesn't matter whether it's, we haven't seen with Broja up top, fair, but whether it's now Sterling and Pulisic up top, or Havertz up top, or Mount up top, nothing was different. Like, nothing was any different. Like, people say, oh, Havertz and Mount need to be dropped. And they did need to be dropped. But then the people that played instead of him were no better.
No, but
it's just
they weren't helped, though. Like, it was literally those two against like 8 defenders. And it was
never going to work.
Mount and Havertz have that same issue when they play. Like,
yeah, but at least the formation, though, was I would have liked to at least see in a 3-4-3, just a bit of width. They were so... Like, it was so narrow. It was a joke. It was disgusting to watch. And I felt bad for Pulisic and Sterling. I was like, these guys have got an impossible job right now. Like, literally. The setup was horrible. It was shit.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. Felix, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much. Before we take it to Dinamo Zagreb versus Chelsea, just also to you. Thoughts now 2 days after West Ham against Chelsea. How do you feel about it? Is the biggest issue our level of performance? Or are you just happy that we actually got the win? Felix, are you there? I think you might not be able to hear us for some reason. Okay, let's ignore that. I'm sure he'll be back. What happened there? I need to text him in a second. Well, let me try to highlight what I was talking about. How do I best highlight this now? Okay, let me just get the formation thing up on screen. Because I happen to find out... Okay, wait, Felix is here now. Felix, can you hear me now? Can you nod if you hear me?
I can hear you.
Brilliant.
Yes,
Fantastic. There you go. Fantastic.
Perfect.
All right. So my question to you, Ro, was now in hindsight of the West Ham game, do you think the biggest talking point is the fact that we still play really badly, essentially, or just the positive that we still sneak the win, even if we needed a bit of VAR luck to go away?
Is this for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely about the performance. I thought the performance was shocking, really. And I thought, I don't care if we got some lucky result. The VAR call for me was completely wrong. I thought it wasn't a foul ever. I thought it was just Bowen running through and just, leg trails. And for me, if you don't sort out the performance, if you don't sort out the attacking patterns, then the team's not going to progress at all. But I'm hoping that now that the transfer window's over, Tuchel can just focus on, coaching, and he can work that out. Because, I know some people say that he's never had the best attacking patterns as a manager in the past, but there's a reason why he's an elite manager, and he's brought us Sussex before. So he needs to just, I think that's the main thing. Attacking patterns need to be worked on.
Fair. That interesting point, because it kind of takes me on to something that I want to explain. I'm not sure if you've seen it, Felix. Charlie, you might have skimmed over it in the group chat, and I was obviously talking about it to you, Pies. Now, this position, and I'm not even going to put a name here, this position was filled against West Ham by Loftus-Cheek. We have played this formation. This player had 84 attempted passes. It doesn't even matter the completed ones. 84 passes. While our centre-back, Thiago Silva, had 109. And then the next two in the order of highest number of passes were the left and the right centre-back, and then the DM. And then I know PSG, very different team, very different level of player in Lionel Messi, different opponent, everything. But PSG play the same system, 3-5-2, just instead of a 1-2, they play 2 6s and 1 10. That 10 in the last game was Messi. So a whole, 20 meters higher on the pitch here instead of here, where that player was for us. Yet this position for PSG had the 85 passes per game. Their central centre-back, compared to our 109 of Thiago Silva, had 48. While their midfielders had similar numbers to Messi or less. Verratti had similar, and I can't remember the other one, but he had a few less. Now, what does that tell me? And people will say, it doesn't matter, different opponent, different whatever. I think it does matter, because what does that show you? That the main center of their system is between these two players, because these two players have the most passes. Now, who had the most passes in our team? These 4. Or if you want, these 2 in terms of central areas. These 2. Now, how much further away from the opposition goal is that? And now, are we surprised that we struggle to create chances when our whole build of play, when 90% of the time we have the ball in this area? Now, you couldn't be further away from the opposition's goal if you tried. And PSG aren't exactly, they do counterattack to some extent just because of Mbappe's pace, but they're not in pure a counterattacking team, especially now that Pochettino is gone. But we have the main part of our team, our center of the team, not to do with the player, but where we evolve most of what we do is here. Well, they do it here. And is anyone now surprised that they create chances for fun? Sometimes miss them, lesser opponents, I get it. But we struggle to even get into that area with anyone not being in trouble of losing the ball, because when we gave Sterling and Pulisic the ball, chances are they lost it. Now, Pulisic didn't lose the ball that much. He had 24 out of 24 completed passes before someone in the chat already is at my throat again. But what I'm trying to say is we still didn't give them the ball and do anything with that. We gave them the ball. They had to pass it backwards. PSG have the center of the whole game here, and we have it here. I think this is a problem. Now, of course, if you guys think that's not a problem and I'm making something out of nothing, totally fair. But Felix, I will start with you. Number one, do you see what I'm saying? Because Pies is I don't understand what you're saying when I was talking to him about it 2 days ago. But do you see what I'm saying? And do you think that is a problem? That our just where the center of everything we do is, it's just way too deep and way too far away from the opposition's goal?
Well, I think there's 2 ways of looking at it. First, I think it's fair to say, I haven't watched PSG this season, so correct me straight away if I'm wrong, but don't PSG play a 4-back? Would I be right in saying that?
Since the new manager play a 3-back, 3-5-2, 2 6s, 1 10.
Then you have a completely fair point, because if it was a 4-back, then the wing-backs wouldn't be as high up. So it makes sense maybe to build from the side, to build from the middle. But I think that's exactly a problem. I think one of the biggest problems is our lack of players in the box. And when we give the ball to Reece James, who's pretty much become our new Eden Hazard in terms of just giving the ball and pray, there's no one actually in the box for him to give it to. And we started Sterling and Pulisic up top last game, and both of them were pretty non-existent the whole game. So I completely understand what you're saying. And to me, it's less about where we have the ball in possession, but it's also about that player number 5 itself and why Ruben Loftus-Cheek has been played as the single pivot. Because that's, for me, is just another player that we've misprofiled, and it's starting to build a really, really long list. Now, in fairness, I will say we brought in Zakaria, so in the future that shouldn't be a problem. However, equally, we did leave Zakaria or that profile until deadline day, showing again potential negligence of that position. I mean, everyone saw Tuchel's quote going through the midfielders and saying, "Why would we need midfielders? We have all these players." And half of them were injured. Conor Gallagher can't play in the pivot, and Loftus-Cheek can't either. So, to me, one problem is how we build up, where we have the ball, how much threat we have in the box, and also who's actually playing that single pivot position, because I don't think Loftus-Cheek is that player. We conceded 4 to Brentford with him in that position, and for me, that was enough to show that he should just be used as an attacking 8 or maybe a right wing back.
See, while I agree with the general sentiment, I do think that if a player is not used to a position, it's harsh to judge him on one performance there, because him playing there more often will automatically make him better there, right? That you would expect that with whichever player you've put in any position.
Potentially,
right?
But I would say that some people just have natural ability, and he is very good on the half turn, but equally he's also a very risky player, and that's what makes him brilliant. But because he likes to take on players, but in the single pivot, it's not really that player. And as much as people like to bash Jorginho, and I have my opinions on him, I think him, when he gets the ball and he managed to pass it to the wing backs from the left centre back, that recycling to get us up the pitch, Loftus-Cheek to me just can't do that.
Well, I will say on Saturday against West Ham, that was the main pass that Ruben did. Play to Reece, play to Cucurella, left, right. I thought he did an okay job. Well, I thought he did a decent job against West Ham. Not amazing.
I think the bigger problem maybe against West Ham was what role Gallagher was meant to be playing, and whether that's Tuchel's fault or Gallagher just not being effective. Because for me, it's not even Gallagher. That front three, for me, you wouldn't have even known they were in the game. Like, they did absolutely nothing for that first half, for me at least. So maybe it's not Ruben's fault. Maybe it's as a collective having options around. And I also think Kovacic was really off the pace because of his injury, which is understandable. So, you know, he was doing quite a lot of work in there.
Absolutely. Charlie, I'll take the question to you before I let Pies talk about it now on stream rather than in a group chat. Do you see what I'm talking about when I'm saying how can a player, like both teams dominating possession, both teams dominating the number of passes between ourselves and West Ham and PSG and Nantes. And Nantes, by the way, they're not a bad team. They won a French Cup last season. Like, they're not relegation fighting. They're not an awful team. How can it be that for us it's the DM and the centre backs with the most passes? For them, it's the centre attacking mid, the number 10, and the centre mid. Like, something has to be wrong. Not wrong necessarily. Maybe that's just what we want to do. But I think because we do that is why we struggle to get in and around goal way too much. Because we are too far away on average from the opposition's goal with where the ball runs around. Only in wide areas do we get anywhere near the box. In central areas, we are never anywhere near the box.
No, we play too deep. I think it's a bit of a shame. We've been so blessed over the years. You know, we've had midfields of Ballack, Lampard, SCM. We used to runners arriving in the box from midfield. Nothing comes from midfield anymore. There's too much of a gap between midfield and attack. Gallagher is. You saw him play at Crystal Palace. I know it's different playing for Crystal. I know it's still the Premier League, but it's different playing for Palace, where teams play differently against Palace than they will against Chelsea. Like Gallagher, you look at him play for Palace, he was decent, an attacking number 8. You know, he's a goal scorer. You see him arrive late in the box making runs. He's not doing that at Chelsea at all. I know he's only had like 2-3 games or whatever, but in none of those games have we seen Gallagher do what he was doing at Crystal Palace or anything close to it. Now, is that because Gallagher can't do it at Chelsea? Maybe, but I don't think so. Or is that because Tuchel is telling him that he's got to play in a different way to what he's used to? I don't really know, but these are good footballers. Loftus-Cheek, again, is another one. Like, he's kind of become a bit of a utility man. But, you know, for me, as Felix said, he's best as a number 8. You know, someone that can pick the ball up. When this guy's running with the ball, for someone of his size, he's such an athlete. He's so good on the ball. He's so quick as well. And he's so physical. Like, you want that ball-carrying presence further up the pitch. There's no point just picking the ball up like in front of the defence and then just playing to the midfield and then doing nothing else. Like, it's too disjointed in there in terms of the gap between the midfield and the attack is too much. There's not enough of a connection between them. I know at times last season when we saw us play a 4-2-2, the first couple of times we played it, and people were so delighted with Mount and Ziyech's link up, with Mount playing in that 8 and Ziyech on the right, the link up that those two had against, I think it was Spurs in the Carabao Cup or whatever. Like, there's no link up to midfield to attack. There's no connection there. Like, it just seems like it's a bunch of strangers playing. And it's a big problem. Like, we need to be playing more of our football closer to the opposition's box. And we just aren't doing that.
I absolutely agree. And I think Cranky Pants hit the nail on the head here. We're either at the corner flag or at the halfway line. 1,000,000%. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Now, Pies, have I either explained it better now, or do you now understand what I meant, or do you still feel like I'm waffling?
I understand a little bit more. I mean, you were saying, though, like just a few minutes ago, that you thought, or maybe you thought Tuchel's idea was to keep possession so much in this game, whereas I think when we do play this 3-5 at the back, it's especially when we have the ball at the back, it's very easy just to keep playing between the five, and it does get annoying when they don't progressively pass the ball into midfield and then start attacks. That was the whole point of it. It was very very boring, and a lot of it is on movement as well. I was noticing during the game, like, just both Loftus-Cheek, Gallagher, Kovacic, they didn't really know when and where to move, and when they did move, the centre backs didn't pass to them. It was often going out wide instead, and yeah, there's definitely a lack of chemistry in this team. We've known that for the last sort of probably year and a half.
But
anyway,
how can that be the case? How can we have a lack of chemistry in a team that's basically always the same team? How is that
I don't
possible?
know. Ask Tuchel. I don't know. He's clearly getting frustrated with certain players as well, not playing the passes when they're supposed to, like Gallagher at the weekend. And it's just going to be a process to see whether it continues or not, and if it improves. It has to improve. Otherwise, as Charlie was saying earlier, like, it's all good getting a 2-1 result against Leicester and West Ham. That's not sustainable, scoring late goals and, getting away with VAR calls and things like that. So it's very difficult, because when we do play that 4-2-2, I mean, I don't like us playing that either. I still think we have similar issues. I think, yeah, we're potentially further up the pitch, but there's still similar issues in terms of getting players into the box. And when we played against Southampton, there was no one really in the middle of the pitch, was it? It was way too wide.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Thinking about it, maybe that's why he's playing, Sterling, Mount, Havertz so much, or did play it so much, because he's trying to get something working, but evidently nothing right now is working. And as the comment says, there is, the movement is definitely a big thing that needs to be coached as well.
That's what I always, when some people are very critical of Jorginho, some people were critical of Loftus-Cheek even against West Ham, and I'm like, and that's why I always defend them to some extent, because people say only sideways. I'm like, yeah, but the reason they pass sideways is because in the time that they have the ball, no one's like, every now and again, sure, it happens, but our movement, and Lucas used a very important word there, coordinated movement. That doesn't mean no one ever makes a run, but it's not a structured, a planned run. Remember Tammy's goal against Watford when Jorginho plucked it over the top, right? That goal, that pass, that run was worked on. That was something of the training, which Jorginho confirmed that in the post-match interview. That is something that they worked on. When do we have that now? It's not like our 6 receives the ball and someone runs. It's not our 8 receives the ball and someone runs. That doesn't happen. They receive the ball, maybe someone runs, maybe no one runs. And that's why I think the whole Gallagher thing, I'm like, yeah, in that situation where Tuchel lost the shit at him, he should have passed. But the 5 other occasions where he had the ball in the very same position and no one made a run, no one is complaining about no run happening. And then people say, oh, but the runs are happening. But yeah, they're either happening, but then completely mistimed, in either too late or too early. Or the fact is also, we ask players to play crazy difficult passes that aren't good at crazy difficult passes. If we want crazy difficult passes, we should have signed Thiago Alcantara. That he can play crazy difficult passes. We shouldn't then have the midfield that we have if that's what we try to attack because we're not trying to attack with crazy difficult passes. If you're playing as a possession-heavy team, you don't try to win with the most difficult pass in the world. No, the most difficult pass in the world is then when you play counter-attacking football and you need to just slice it immediately. A bit like that Bruno Fernandes pass that Charlie mentioned earlier for Rashford against Arsenal. We could never play that pass because that run would never happen. It's impossible. And also because we would slowly build it up from the back. Our 3 centre-backs would pass it between them 50 times before we would ever give it to the number 10. And by then, whoever the opponent is, us have 11 men back. And as much as Reece James is amazing, and we will go praise him some more in a second, he's also one of those. He gets the ball, we could have a quick attack, and all of a sudden he turns around and passes it to the centre-backs. It's not just Gallagher who's not good enough that doesn't do it. The same problem applies to Reece James. The same problem applies to Kovacic. They all don't play the passes that we need often enough. Every now and again, Kovacic is more likely to do it than Gallagher. Of course, he's a better player. He's a more experienced player. He's therefore a more confident player. Of course, all of those reasons apply. But the fact of the matter is, like Lucas said, no coordinated patterns and runs, and it's just confusing to me. It's honestly... Charlie made one point earlier in terms of Tuchel is now a full-time coach again. So maybe with the new signings and him being a full-time coach again, we can get to that again. But I always find it very easy to say, Jorginho only passes sideways. Ruben only passes sideways. I'm like, well, yeah, because they can't keep the ball for 20 seconds. And if they don't keep the ball for 20 seconds, there's no run. Because when they receive the ball, no one runs. So that's why I always like... That doesn't have anything to do with Jorginho or Ruben or anyone that plays in midfield making mistakes in trying to hold the ball or even holding the ball for too long. Part of the problem is no movement, because that's why they keep the ball too long. Every time Jorginho is dispossessed just in front of our back three or back four, happens because no one runs, because we all know Jorginho could pass it immediately, but there's no runs. And there never is. And I never understand why there isn't. Honestly, I find it mind-boggling. Now,
they're too easy to play against, basically, is the problem.
When there is runs, on a certain occasion, Sterling will make a couple of runs a game. I can already see him in the games, like whacking his hands up in the air because he's not getting those passes that he got at City. So it's very, very frustrating. And unlike Timo Werner and unlike Lukaku, in my opinion, if Sterling does get those, through balls or over the top balls or perfectly timed passes, even some cases it's just a case of a simple pass where we might mess up an attack. Unlike Lukaku and Werner, I'm backing Sterling to score those goals. So that's what's even more frustrating.
I agree.
Can I add something here? Just onto
go.
the one thing before. I think this is what kind of stems all the frustrations with Tuchel that you see in the fan base right now. I mean, if you look back, like, he's had 3, I think, transfer windows now. Like, we all accepted when he came in that there was a situation with the squad, and the squad fit a specific formation because there were players with limitations. But now you've had 2 summer windows, one that he had complete control over, and this is what you've decided to do with the team. So that's completely fine. Now we just have to give him time and see what's going to happen. But so far, and it's been a very short term, but I haven't seen any improvements. We haven't moved away from the 5-back. He clearly didn't see Jorginho or the lack of a pivot player that could let us play a 4 as a problem. He clearly was fine with that. Otherwise, he would have done something about it. And my problem is that we haven't seen any attacking patterns. And the only thing that has worked, that comes to mind that he's done, that's helped us link midfield to attack, was inverted wingbacks for a period. But then that we still use that, but it's not as effective. It allowed us to progress up the pitch, but also I think our wingers just aren't good enough to then come back out wide. And I also think our wingers aren't good enough for us to play a 4. I mean, we've brought a DM in now, but who plays out wide? Sterling would have to play out wide, who has been good in central positions. And the right wing would probably have to be Ziyech, who we all know is very inconsistent, probably good for a couple of games. So you've been given everything you need.
Which is why I think we needed a winger.
To show it. Yeah, exactly. And he prioritized a lot of different things. Nathan Ake for 40 million and some odd signings. And this is what you've been left with. No excuses. I'll let you have your time. Completely fine with it. I still love you, but we actually have to see something. There's no excuses at all.
Absolutely. I do agree. Charlie Pies, anything you want to add to that? Otherwise, move on.
No, we're good.
Probably just on the Zakaria thing. I'm really intrigued to see whether Tuchel actually plays him and actually has got him, because he wants that defensive midfielder. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's going to be
I think he's going to pick Ruben over Zakaria for most of the season.
I think he's going to use him as a versatility type player, which obviously he can be. But does he alone fix any of our issues? I'm not sure.
We had a versatility play in Ruben already. We didn't need another one.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what he does with him as well.
Absolutely. But that actually is a good segue, Pies, so thank you. To talk about tomorrow's game between Dinamo Zagreb and Chelsea in the first game of the UEFA Champions League group stages. 2 players have been left out of the squad, one due to injury, one presumably due to rest. So N'Golo Kante and Thiago Silva are the only players that did not travel, which means both Denis Zakaria and Pierre Emerick Aubameyang did both travel. Now, Pierre Emerick Aubameyang, I don't know if in Barcelona they haven't invented masks yet, but seemingly they were all 100% convinced that he would be out for at least 3 weeks, which would have meant we wouldn't have seen him until October, because that's exactly when the international break starts. Out of nowhere, he seems to be, available enough to travel to Croatia. He's probably not going to start, but maybe he'll come off the bench and make his debut that way. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. Otherwise, why would you bring him, right? At that point, you're not going to train that much. Surely at that point, you would leave him there if there isn't at least a possibility that he gets a start. So that's fantastic news. I mean, like I said, when we signed him, I was of the opinion that we are not going to see him play for us until October. If he can play for us sooner, the sooner the better, really. Charlie, good news that Aubameyang might potentially get his debut tomorrow. Again, who knows? Unlikely to start, just in my opinion. The press conference hasn't taken place yet, so maybe we'll find out more.
On Aubameyang, Tuchel was saying that there's a high chance that he'll play tomorrow if he comes through the last training session. So I presume that's the training session tonight, and then there's a chance that he'll play 90 tomorrow. Minutes. Though. Yeah, he'll be on the bench. I'd expect him to make his debut tomorrow from the bench. But it's a massive plus. It's a massive plus because we were under the illusion that he wasn't going to be available potentially until the end of this month or until October after that break. So that's a massive plus. Obviously you want your new signings to come in and be able to play as soon as possible. So yeah, I think that's going to be great for us, and it gives us another option. It adds a real goal scorer to the side, and it's something to be excited about. It's always exciting when we got new players and you haven't seen them play yet for the club. And this Aubameyang one is a welcome boost for us because, as I said, we were expecting him to be out for a few weeks. So yeah, a massive plus, definitely.
Absolutely. Charlie, do you expect, we'll obviously talk about it in more detail when we get to our lineups for tomorrow, but do you expect Zakaria to make his debut as well? He has travelled. Do you think he might start? Do you think he will come off the bench, or do you just think he was just there?
I think a start's unlikely, personally, but I wouldn't rule anything out, but I think it's unlikely he'll start given the fact, we've got obviously Kovacic, Jorginho, Ruben, Gallagher, etc. to play in that midfield. If he sticks with a 3-5-2 from the weekend, then there's definitely more of a chance for him to start. But if it's going to be a pivot, I'd be very surprised if he started. I think, again, he would probably be someone that would come off the bench. So, yeah, I think we're likely to see 2 debuts tomorrow. But again, it depends on the context of how the game's going as well.
Absolutely. Pice, similar question to you. Number one, gas that we might see an Aubameyang debut tomorrow. And then the question, do you think we'll see a Zakaria debut tomorrow as well? Or do you think that one's less likely?
I think, we will see their debuts. They definitely get on. I think we can debate whether they're going to start when we do the lineup. But, yeah, I think we'll definitely see them. Am I excited about Aubameyang? Yeah, I've always liked Aubameyang. I think he's a good striker. But, again, I don't think, especially in the Premier League, he solves many of our current issues, which is what I'm scared about. Because, we have got finishers like Sterling in the team. And, yes, he has scored already 3 goals. But how many chances has Sterling had?
Loads,
not that many. Not as many as he could have if we improved things. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And I do worry about Aubameyang in that
chances.
sense.
Like if he was more clinical, he could have 9 goals already. It could be equal with Haaland.
It's also almost every single time we have the chance, it is Sterling, which is another problem. It's just that he's good enough to get in good positions to get chances, but no one else is either. So it's another problem that he's the only one who gets the chances, really. I don't think many other people have got chances apart from Havertz's miss versus Spurs, to be honest. When was the last time Mason Mount missed a big chance?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm just thinking about whether I think that's a problem in and of itself. Because
I think it is. I think if you have one person, I think if you
most
watch
of their
City,
chances last season, they had Lewandowski had the chances. Haaland, City now.
But if you watch
Haaland
City,
you know what I mean?
watch like City 17, 18 and stuff like that, like with Aguero, Sané, Sterling, stuff like that. Like they attack the box and anyone can get on the end of that. You have the striker, you have the wingers, and you have the midfielder coming in the edge of the box, and all we have is Sterling. That's for me.
That's because we play 3 centre-backs and then 2 defensive midfielders. So who else could be there? Do you know what I mean? It could be 2 or 3. Havertz is in dreadful form. Broja isn't getting a chance. Mount is in dreadful form. And then what? Pulisic who falls over when he receives the ball? Like, it's not going to, like... And then he had a chance and did a weaker shot than a toddler. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But Charlie, Pice, did you finish on Zakaria as well? I think so.
Yeah.
There you go. Felix, then, before we move on from that, you excited about Aubameyang's potential debut?
Not really, to be honest. Like, it's fun to see a new player touch the pitch, but he's not going to do anything. Like, he's a decent player, hope he still has the pace that he used to have. But just as Pi said, like, it doesn't solve any of the issues that we have. And it annoys me when I hear all these pundits talking about Chelsea needing a striker when, to be honest, like, I don't care about a striker. Like, how many times
we had a striker last season and that didn't
work. That's what I'm saying. How many times we're going to keep saying Chelsea needs number 9? Like, as much as people hate Romelu Lukaku, I don't even think he was the worst player in the world. I think he was almost proof once again. You bring in an elite striker and they won't do anything at Chelsea. And Zakaria, I doubt he comes on, to be honest. If he does come on, I'm very scared that they're going to bring him on as central centre-back because we haven't brought Thiago Silva and Torres Koulibaly. And I hope, to God, I don't see that.
Or if he comes on as central centre-back, I might just turn the TV off,
Exactly. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I mean, obviously, it's always nice to see new signings, but I don't think he'll do that much. I don't think he'll do that much. At least for the future.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree with you. My main hope for Aubameyang is that obviously because he's a very different style of striker to Lukaku, that he will just run around in ways that scares the opponent and therefore will automatically make more space for us. Well, obviously Lukaku always made less space because he never went anywhere. So that's why, never moved. So that's why there was never any space. That's my hope, that Aubameyang with Sterling as a combination, that can be so, and I'm not even talking about direct runs towards goal, just little movements that I hope
you're basically describing
a little bit more space. I think that's the biggest difference it could have. I'm not sure though.
You're basically describing a better Timo Werner, which I don't think is a problem at all. But
Timo Werner with a good touch and the finish. That's a big difference to just Timo Werner.
And I think that's a good thing. I said a better Timo Werner because I think Timo Werner's the space he created was brilliant, but not 50 million worth of that. And I think Aubameyang can add more to that. It's just really boring because there's these issues, and one of them got pushed to deadline day, and the other one just hasn't been solved. But Tuchel is a clever man, so let's hope he has a plan here somewhere. Not sure.
Absolutely. Now, what we're going to do, earlier than both of you might be used to, well, Felix has never seen this before, but he will now. What we do is a little quiz ahead of who we play. Now, because we're playing Dinamo Zagreb, this will be difficult. So I hope you're ready, boys. These are some difficult questions in there, but hey, don't worry about it.
Wait, have we ever even played them before?
Well, not necessarily us, I don't think, but it's still we need a few questions to do with them, a few questions on that.
Mate, we need a mate, Laurenz, you need to keep score of who's winning the quizzes. End of the season, there needs to be a prize.
But
I've been smoking you all
on the quizzes every week.
Mate, mate,
Charlie, bro, I've been smoking you all. You can't touch me on these. Come on,
mate. You said there was only, mate. You didn't know how many Spurs players had won the Champions League.
But John, do you know how many Spurs players won the Champions League?
Yeah, it was 2.
There you go, fair play.
There we go.
See, Felix is competitive over here when we get the questions out. See, I was a big fan of the other week or the last Friday when Bertram asked the questions. Unfortunately, he's unavailable today. So it's back to me being the quiz master. But here we go. Some of these will be multiple choice. I think a couple of might not, but we'll get there. Let's start with the first one. And a few of the wordings of these questions, how Bertram wrote them down, hilarious. So get ready, ladies and gentlemen. Zagreb has a history of zapping English sides. Not sure where he came up with the word zapping, but sure. Zagreb has a word of zapping English sides. Which of the following English teams have Zagreb never beaten? 4 options: Spurs, Leeds, Arsenal, or Everton. Who have never lost against Zagreb? Any clues? Obviously,
never lost or never won.
Are we just shouting out our answer?
Yes.
Is it never lost or never won?
Never beat them. So they beat all the other ones. At least.
Okay.
I think Everton.
Yeah, I think I'd go Everton as well.
Price? The options are Spurs, Leeds, Arsenal, Everton.
I'll go. The thing is, I don't know if they've beat Arsenal. Have they even played Arsenal before?
They must have done it in the Europa League.
Yeah, but I don't know if they've beat them. I'm going to go Arsenal to be different. They've probably slapped them at some point, but...
See, he didn't tell me the results, but Felix and Charlie were actually correct. It is Everton.
Oh, fuck.
Seemingly, they've beaten Spurs, Leeds, and Arsenal previously. And someone asks how
Leeds, what the hell? When have they played Leeds?
Mate, it must have been Champions League because Leeds got to the semi-finals in like 2003.
I was going to say, that question could have gone. That question could have gone back to like the 1920s or some shit.
Well, we know Spurs happened fairly recently. That was like, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was when Jose was there.
There you go. Well, next question, which might be a little bit easier for you. Let's see if Charlie finds it the easiest or not. We'll see. Chelsea, and again, the wording of the question is hilarious. Chelsea have previously had the presence of some Dynamo Dynamite, because of Dinamo Zagreb. Dynamo Dynamite present in our first team. Which of the following rotational players used to play for Dinamo Zagreb? Either Eduardo, Pasalic, not Winston Bogart, the guy that went to Sassuolo, or Jose Bozingua. Again,
Who's Eduardo?
See, this is what I want to know. He said Eduardo. I'm like, who the fuck is Eduardo?
Wait, does he mean Eduardo, the striker that used to play for Arsenal?
No. They used to play for Chelsea.
But there's no Eduardos that play for Chelsea, is there?
Eduardo, Portuguese former footballer.
So he played for Arsenal, not Chelsea.
No, he was centre. He played striker for Arsenal.
I'm thinking of the Brazilian guy.
I think it's a goalkeeper. Eduardo dos Reis Carvalho.
No, anyway, it's Pasalic anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Okay, I was gonna go Pasalic.
Pasalic, yeah, it's Pasalic.
Just because is he Croatian?
Yeah, he is.
Croatian,
I think.
actually.
It's got to be. It's got to be. It must be him.
But it could be a trick question. It could be like, because he's.
No, there's no way. It's definitely him.
Oh yeah, it's Pasalic.
Felix, your guess?
Definitely Pasalic, 100%. Bet anything.
Unfortunately, for all,
It's not going to be.
No, that's fuck off. There's no way.
No, it's a trick question. It's a trick. Who was it?
It said Eduardo, and I can tell you when he was at Chelsea.
Rubbish.
No one knows.
No. I can tell you when he was at Chelsea for. Between 2016 and 2019, although he spent the 2018-19 season on loan at Vitesse.
Oh, I know who that guy is now. I know who he is.
First choice goalkeeper we had.
Yeah, I know who that guy is now. I've just remembered.
Oh, I don't even know who he is.
If you Google him, you might just put in Chelsea, Eduardo Chelsea, and then but it was a difficult one.
Everyone was memeing him because he was like sent out to Vitesse in like the first week or something. I think I remember. Yeah,
I should probably just, I can't just share quickly his Wikipedia page to everyone because
mate, you'll know him. He was like 45 or something. You'll know him when you see him.
There you go. I mean, that picture isn't very good, but as you can see. Chelsea, 2016 and 2019.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Didn't play a single game, but
But get his picture up.
Scroll up to the photo.
Yeah, scroll to the.
It's not a great photo, I will say.
I don't really remember it.
No, put in Eduardo Chelsea on Google. It's very obvious with the beard. Trust me.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Isn't he a goalkeeper coach now? I swear he is. I swear.
I think it just makes him up with Hilario now because they look the same.
They look exactly the same.
Yeah, but there you go. That's him. Next question is a bit more feasible. The next one, I tell you. Yeah. All right. So Chelsea are going to Zagreb. Are going to Zagreb for another win tomorrow in our first Champions League group game. That is actually something we are not quite as good at as we would like to believe. So, how many times in the last 10 years have Chelsea failed to win our first Champions League group game? 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, or 6 times? How many times in the last 10 years have we not won our first group game?
Say those numbers again.
It's not got
2, 3, 5, or 6.
Well, I mean, it's obviously 5 or 6 because you said that it's not as good as we would have thought. So it has to be one of those.
Yeah,
two.
must be one of them. Must be one
I
of them.
actually marked himself off there.
2 or 3.
I give you that clue.
2 or 3 isn't that bad.
Correct with that assumption.
Yeah.
So basically, you've given us a 50-50 straight off the bat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to go.
Let's see how many of you get it right. See Charlie giving it the big one now and see if he gets it right. Come on, Charlie.
I'll go
5.
5. I think it's 5. I'd say 5.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to go 6 just because you lot have gone for 5, so I might as well try and get an advantage.
Unfortunately, Felix, even though you exposed the hint to the others, it is 5. But isn't that crazy?
Great.
Only 5. So basically, only 50% of the last 10 seasons, well, in which we were in the Champions League, we won our first group game. That's crazy.
We probably haven't lost them all, though.
No. But still, most teams we play against, the draw we're not quite happy with, is it? Say that again.
I remember who we played. Who did we play last year for the first group?
We had Juventus in the group, and we had.
I don't think that was the first game. I'm pretty sure
it wasn't. Was it?
I think last season we won it. I think last season the first game was Zenit at home, and we won with Lukaku.
Oh yeah, it's a 1-0 Lukaku. Yeah.
Yeah, and didn't he get injured along with Werner in that game? And then they were out for 2 months,
injured,
and then everyone thought that was the problem. And then they were the problems.
Exactly that. Now, a bit more of a more random question, but we'll see how your England geography skills are like. So, Zagreb is a fairly big city, almost as big as the L we will be handing them tomorrow. Which of the following UK cities is by a fair bit less populated than Zagreb? Newcastle, Leeds, Nottingham, or Manchester?
Fucking
Mate,
hell.
I'm
That's
so
so
bad at
hard.
geography.
I'd say Nottingham.
All right, just guess. I'm aware you can't know. Do you know what I mean?
Right, Leeds, Manchester, Nottingham, and what?
Newcastle.
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 I'm going Newcastle.
Nottingham.
Pies?
Nottingham. Yeah, I don't think that's as big as the others. Might be wrong.
Unfortunately, boys, we've had the first thinker. It is Manchester, weirdly, which means Zagreb is
really?
not Manchester.
Manchester was massive.
Yeah,
That's what I was
I
thinking.
thought.
Mate, none of them are near
really
me, so I
stupid.
wouldn't fucking know anyway. None of them are near me.
There you go. See, I leave this one out because we all know it's going to be Orsic. Too simple. We spoke about it in the past. But now my favorite question of the day, even though it's impossible to answer, but just with how you worded it, my favorite question of the day. Quizmaster Bertram, like most of you, will be watching the game from home. But what is the home of Dinamo Zagreb called?
Well, stadium.
Stadium Maksimir, Stadium Hrvatska, which just means Croatian in Croatian. Stadion Luzniki, which anyway, and Stadion Orsic, which is unlikely.
It's the first one. I'm putting in the first one.
Read the
I
first
think
two
third.
again. It's definitely not the last two.
Max
What's
something.
the first two?
Maksimir is how I'm going to pronounce
Yeah.
it. Maksimir. And the
Yeah.
second one is Stadium or whatever, Hrvatska, which just means Croatian in Croatia, I think.
Oh, I think it's the first one then.
What's the third one?
The third one is Stadion Luzniki.
That's in Russia anyway.
Yeah, that's Russian.
I'm not having that.
Yeah, it's
Number
either Russia or
one.
Ukraine, one of them.
Yeah, the first one. I'll go the first one.
Number one, for sure.
You got it all correct. Aren't we having fun? Now, I did say to Bertram, maybe these Zagreb ones will be difficult, but hey, we got through it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on and talk about tomorrow's game between.
Does that mean that
Chelsea
I
and
win the quiz? Because I've got 2
Yes,
points.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Charlie,
fantastic.
you get,
Yep.
I don't know, give yourself a pat on the back. You deserve it.
Wicked. No, thanks, mate. Thanks.
Everybody subscribe to Charlie's channel. Link is in the description. You get extra shout out. But yeah, let's go. Like we said, Thiago Silva is not traveling and N'Golo Kante is not traveling. So with that said, let's talk about tomorrow's team. I already had a lineup up on screen earlier, which was the formation in the last game. Now, you can tell me both what you think Thomas Tuchel will pick and what you would personally pick. But I don't think either will be a 3-5-2, especially with these two strikers. So, Felix, I'll have you go first in this one. What would be your formation for tomorrow? And also, what formation do you think Thomas Tuchel is going to go for?
I don't know. Bloody hell. I think I wouldn't mind that formation if Mount played as one of the 8s. I mean, if you think of it as like purely because like if he doesn't start Brozier in this game, it's practically a sackable offence. Let's have it right. Like you got to have some hierarchy in this team, and if someone deserves to start a game for 3 games in a row, you have to start him in a game. So Brozier has to start this game. And I was thinking like if you paired Brozier up with Sterling up top, that wouldn't be the worst thing. Play Mount and Kovacic as 8s, and then play Jorginho as the pivot in a 5. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So I might go for that, to be honest, because I think that if you don't start Brozier, like if you start Brozier, you can't start Havertz, and then once you get past Havertz, everyone else is terrible.
See, I would personally start both, but it's obviously Thomas Tuchel will never do it. But I would personally
actually, I wouldn't mind that at all because Sterling needs a rest and up to. But again, yeah, that would work in my formation perfectly. Havertz and Brozier up top, so I wouldn't be against that, to be honest. So
one question before I ask the other boys in terms of formation. Now that Thiago Silva hasn't travelled, how would you? And I'll ask you more detail later. But did you consider that? Because who will be the central centre back then?
Yeah, I mean, for me, do you know who we're playing this weekend? Is it Fulham, right? We're playing
Fulham, yeah,
Saturday, I think.
Saturday early kickoff.
So, I mean, we could do some rest. Chilwell has to start, and I think you just play him as a left wing back. Then I'd probably play. I think Cucurella could do with the rest, so I'd maybe play Chalobah left centre back. Because it depends how good. It's hard to do a match preview on a team that you know nothing about, to be honest. But
it is true.
I'm going to judge that they're not the greatest team while still being a decent team. So I'd put Chalobah at left centre back, put Koulibaly central centre back, Fofana right centre back, and then depending on how confident Tuchel is, either Loftus-Cheek or Reece James at right wing back, because we still have to wrap that guy in cotton wool because we overuse him a lot.
Absolutely. And that is probably something I should have put more time on, the whole Reece James new contract. But we'll get to that regardless. Charlie, though, would you agree with Felix? Go with a 3-back, or would you change to a back 4 now that Thiago Silva isn't there?
Oh no, I'd still play the 3, mate. I'd probably go back to a 3-4-3. I wouldn't be dead against this again, but it would require different personnel as the front 2 for me. So I'd personally go 3-4-3, but again, I wouldn't be like annoyed if it was the 3-5-2. But I think the 3-4-3 is just better suited to the profile of players we've got. So I'll go with that.
Can I just add, like, that's why I'd have a problem with the 3-5-2, because the biggest problem is what we talked about earlier, is the gap between midfield and attack.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you have Brozier and Havertz, Brozier, you saw versus Southampton, came really deep to make runs. Havertz can always drop deep. And I think Mount and Kovacic are two very, like, they can play in between the lines, progress the ball. So it depends on which profiles you're playing, to be honest.
That is true. It is also, if now all of us assume that Zakaria won't start. So if we did play the single 6 again, he doesn't seem to want to play Jorginho as that. So that would probably mean Ruben as that again. And is that what we're looking for? Like, even I'm probably not looking for that. Like, Ruben's playing way too many games. Like, if Sterling needs a rest, if Cucurella needs a rest, Ruben most certainly needs a rest. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm a little bit concerned about. But Pies, formation 3-4-3, 3-5-2, 4 at the back. What are you thinking?
I was going to go over 4, but then I don't think Reece James is going to start, and I don't want Aspi up against Orsic, to be quite honest with you. I think that would probably be a catastrophe. I'm going to go with 3-4-3. Okay. I have a feeling he's going to go with 3-5-2 and kind of do what Felix said and play Broja and Havertz, but I'm going to go with 3-4-3 for mine, but I don't know how we're going to do it because everyone's saying different things.
I mean, we can play a 3-4-3 like that, and then you can still play 2 up front.
Don't know.
Like, we've played.
I mean, my team's a lot different to what you guys have been saying. I can already say that just based off what predicting he's going to do. In
terms of prediction, do you think he's going to rotate a lot, or do you think he's not going to rotate at all?
I think he's going to rotate a lot.
See, I think he's not going to rotate at all.
If he doesn't rotate,
spell the word rotation.
I know, but we've got that Fulham game is incredibly difficult. It's a 12:30 away game, and I feel like with Zagreb, this is the easiest game in our group, and I feel like he's gonna just rotate a lot and rest some players. So, I mean, we'll give our opinions.
Absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely free to have your opinion. Let me put the wing backs a little bit deeper, so it's a bit more realistic than whatever these guys are putting it out as. But let's stick to a 3-4-3, as we had 2 people mentioning that. Now, my reason, whether it's like this, we'll get to that when we get to the forwards, which way we want to line them up. My big reason is, if Pice is correct and Reece James doesn't start, then Ruben needs to play wing back, which, well, it better not be Aspi, because otherwise I'll flip my shit, I'm telling you. So we can't exactly play a 3-5-2, because I can only see Tuchel doing that, at least with 1-6. If it's Ruben, I don't see him doing it with anybody else. Maybe Zakaria, but not tomorrow anyway. So that's why, if Ruben has to play wing back, in my opinion, it can't be the other formation, if I'm being perfectly honest. But obviously, you know, we could be completely wrong, and Reece James might start, and then who knows what happens. But let's start with the first topic to discuss. Now, let's take it back to the West Ham decision. Do you think Mendy made a big mistake there? Because when you see the video back, especially the clip from like off the left, and you see how Bowen's kind of charging into it, and then I'm like, could Mendy have caught it? I think he could have done, but I think being a little bit scared of what Bowen was doing is the reason he didn't. So now is the question, is that too harsh to drop him for then? Or do you think, because it's a different competition now, this is the time to play Kepa? Even though someone in the chat said earlier that Zagreb and especially Orsic are quite known for their good long shots. So maybe not the time for Kepa in that perspective. But otherwise, and I'll start with you again, Felix. Do you think it's time for Kepa, or would you stick with Mendy regardless?
I'd 100% start with Kepa. I'll be so annoyed if Mendy starts. Although I think it, again, links to a wider issue where this is just a short-term solution. And in about 5 games, Kepa's going to make a mistake also, and we're going to drop them too. And really, we should just sort out the goalkeeper position next summer. I don't think either of them are good enough. I think Mendy's problems have just been highlighted this season and the back end of last season. No one's ever thought he was comfortable on the ball, but he was never actually leading to mistakes. And behind those mistakes, he always had excellent shot stopping, game-changing shot stopping. Now, game-changing shot stopping has gone out the window. He doesn't know what his near post is. That's the first rule you learn as a goalkeeper. Don't concede at your near post. And he can't distribute either. So, and also, once again, like I said with Brozier, it's got to be a hierarchy. And as much as I would have liked to sell Kepa this summer, like, he sits there on the bench as a huge asset and someone who has World Cup aspirations. And if you don't play him after Mendy's form, when are you going to play him? There's no time you'll ever play him. So you have to.
I said this for the last 4 streams, haven't I? I said I can't believe he hasn't started Kepa in one of these games.
Yeah.
Like, how if you don't drop Mendy on this form, like, the precedent that
When do
sets
you
to
drop him?
Kepa and the rest of the squad is just outrageous. I can't believe it. I can't believe he's not dropped him. I know, you stick loyal to your number one, and he's even been defended him in the media, but like, he's acting like Kepa is atrocious. Kepa under Tuchel has not even been that bad.
No,
You know what I
not
mean?
at all.
So I don't really get it, to be honest with you.
He's most certainly been better than Mendy's recent form, that's for sure. Charlie, what about you? Would you go for Kepa as well, or would you stick with Mendy?
No, I'd go with Kepa. I think it's time to mix things up. I think it's got to come to a point where you're held accountable for playing badly. It doesn't matter who you are in the squad. You can't just have it that you've got players that, regardless of how badly they play, they're deemed untouchable. Because what does that mean for the rest of the squad? That, it doesn't matter what we do in training, these guys are always going to play. So I think there's got to be a precedent set that if you don't play well, then you will be dropped. And it doesn't matter who you are. And sometimes I think Tuchel's a bit slow to make big decisions, but we've seen that he does make them, dropping Mount and Havertz at the weekend, finally. And I think there's another decision to be made in goal. And yes, it's a new competition. I think this is technically probably our easiest game, you would say, in the group.
Aside from playing them at home, should be easier.
No, what I mean is, like, easiest team we're going to play in the group. I can tell you Salzburg are better than these, and obviously Milan are as well. So I think there's opportunity to rotate. And in fairness, Kepa under Tuchel, other than missing that penalty in the cup shootout, hasn't played badly.
Judging by that little clip we saw of when Havertz came on the last game, Kepa seems to be more capable of giving Havertz instructions that lead to Havertz scoring than Tuchel is.
Yeah.
So maybe we should just put Kepa on the pitch and then Havertz will go hat trick.
I think he's got to play. I just think just a bit of freshness. And I don't know, maybe part of the reason that we're conceding from set plays. Well, I remember when you come on my channel like last week, mate, saying that there's perhaps the defence have lost confidence in Mendy. And there seems to be like a bit of panic at the back. Every time the ball comes into the box from a set play now, it's just a mess. Like, he's flapping at it. You see, the things that he was good at, he's now not doing them well. He used to command the box. He'd come and collect crosses. He's come and collect corners. He's not doing that now. He's flapping at everything.
I said it on your channel, didn't I? Remember when we had Courtois? Whenever a team even came up with the idea of putting any delivery close to the goalkeeper, Courtois caught every one of them.
Yeah. But Mendy's not doing that anymore.
I don't even know what it looks like for a goalkeeper to catch crosses anymore.
I just think, like, if it was an outfield player doing this, like, he would have been dropped. I think obviously there's a bit more scrutiny on dropping a goalkeeper, of course, like for whatever reason there is. But at the end of the day, Mendy for me has not really been playing well enough, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to switch it up. New competition, away from home, supposed much easier game. It's just got to be done.
But what you said on the defence crumbling,
I'll go to you as well, Felix, and you can answer that one. I'll start with you. If I ask you honestly, do you believe that Tuchel will start Mendy, or do you believe he will start Kepa? Felix, you can start and say what you wanted to say now as well.
I think he'll go Kepa, and the only reason I think that is because I think it's a good excuse that it's the Champions League, a slightly easier game, and he, in theory, even though I don't think he could have started Kepa even if Mendy was on good form. I think he is looking for a bit of an excuse. Dropping him in the last game would have been a huge statement. And the thing I wanted to say on Charlie's point on defence crumbling, I think once again links to a bigger issue that we've been relying on the defence since probably about a year now to bail us out of situations because our midfield gets ran through completely in every single transition and our attack can't get us more goals and keep us up. And finally, Mendy's crumbling under the pressure. Thiago Silva's somehow still showing strong that he's going to get injured soon and it's going to get even worse. And honestly, like as you said, I know Mendy's not great at claiming corners. That set pieces is just a completely separate issue. But there's a reason he's crumbling in these near post situations, and it's costing us games. In the past, he saves those, and we win games because we rely on the defense, because we expose them so much from not having a competent midfield.
And also him being so much worse with the ball at his feet now. Like I made this example against West Ham. No, not against West Ham. Who did we concede from the corner where Aspie just passed it out? Southampton, yeah. I said it at the time. If Kepa is in goal or Mendy is on more confident and better form, Aspie doesn't pass that out for a corner, but he passes back to the goalie. And the reason he didn't pass it back to the goalie is because of Mendy's awful form. And that's a problem that we need to fix. Like either play the different goalkeeper or do something about Mendy being really bad with the ball at his feet. But we need to fix the problem. But I think we've spent, well, actually, Charlie, do you think he will start Kepa or do you think he'll start Mendy?
I'd like him to start Kepa, but I just think he'll start Mendy.
I agree with you, especially with what he said after the West Ham game. He basically said, yeah, he's just getting unlucky. He's really good in training. I'm going to stick by my goalkeeper. Him saying that after West Ham doesn't make me think he's going to drop him, unfortunately. But I hope Felix is
Wasn't he also talking about, I'm not sure whether he got asked specifically on Kepa, but he did bring, this is what I'm not sure actually. I'm confused whether he brought Kepa up or whether he was asked on Kepa, because there was not today's conference.
Yeah, in the embargo bit that came out last night, didn't it?
Yeah, he was asked about Kepa as well, and it was like, he's training well and all this sort of thing. So I don't.
Said he wanted him to stay as well. He was happy. He wanted to keep him.
Well,
yeah, no wonder he's the only one against Kai to score. But Pice, do you think it will be Kepa or do you think it will be Mendy?
I think he will start Mendy, but I'm going to say Kepa.
Fair. I agree. I feel like he's gonna start Mendy, but I hope it's Kepa. All right, let's get to the back three. Felix made a shout earlier and said Chalobah left centre back. Now, Felix, what made you say Chalobah left centre back and Koulibaly in the middle, and I assume Fofana on the right, rather than playing Chalobah in his more comfortable right side, Fofana in the middle, and leaving Koulibaly on the left? Do you have an explanation for that, Felix?
Well,
firstly, what came to mind?
Firstly, I'll tweet it out. Actually putting Cucurella instead of Chalobah when I said that Thiago Silva obviously wasn't in the squad. I was thinking what could be our back five, and a lot of people are saying put Chalobah left centre back. So that's why the idea came to mind. There's probably two reasons for it. One, just plainly, I think you got to rest Cucurella. I think he's been really used a lot, and I think you could just do with a break.
Yeah, no, I hear that, but why not? Why not this?
So I'll answer that. Yeah. So secondly, I think Koulibaly. He's a good central centre back, and I think it would be good to play him there because if let's say, because Thiago Silva never slows down, but if Thiago Silva slows down or gets injured, there's the only natural central centre back in this team is Koulibaly for me, and I almost think he could be better there, to be honest, potentially. So I think it's good to rotate him into that role. And in terms of playing Chalobah left centre back, I wouldn't care if he played Fofana left centre back. If anything, it might be a good idea just to know whether he's able to play there or not, which I'm sure he is. But it's this thing of trying to mould a player, and having Chalobah, who we already know can play right centre back, having the option of playing him left centre back, which, by the way, we already know Chalobah can play left centre back. If you'd watched him at Lorient, you would know he played a left centre back, because I remember getting in an argument about 3 months ago when he started Malang Sarr over him at left centre back, and I was telling everyone he can play left centre back, and they didn't listen. But I promise you he can. He's played there many times. So I think playing
judging by
again,
the last 15 minutes against Leicester, I would say he can't. But
yeah, but that's more Chalobah than it is left centre back for me. Like he's sometimes just switches off. So I wouldn't care which way you put it around. It's more about longevity. Where does he see each of these players in the future? If you see one of them in the future playing in a specific role or having the option of playing in that role, play them there so they can at least have a taste of it.
Fair. And you would not put Aspie in? Like, I don't want Aspie at wing back. I do not want Aspie at right back. But at centre back, I can still live with Aspie starting every now and again, like this game. And I'm concerned if he's not in this back three, he's going to be at wing back. So I almost want to just throw him in there so no one can mention him at wing back.
For me, honestly, I wouldn't mind if we played Chalobah, Fofana, Aspie. No, actually, I would mind, to be honest. But that's the only way I'd play it. My two problems with that is, one, Orsic at left wing. Right, we all know how smoked Aspie gets. And second, does that really fill you with confidence? Fofana playing central centre back for the first time that I've ever seen. We want to mould him a right centre back.
No, he's played central centre back for Leicester quite a bit, actually.
In the three?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But I mean, he's still a new team.
Not every time, but he's played it a few times.
Yeah. So, but it's still a new team. He's still getting used to it. It's a different
Yeah.
role to the last one he played. And then you have Aspie and Chalobah, who for me never feel 100% confidence, especially with Chalobah left centre back or right centre back. I trust him more. So for me, I feel like you're almost asking for an upset with that team. And I don't think Tuesday to Saturday is that big of a gap. And the big man that you want to rest for me is Thiago Silva. If you can get Koulibaly off 60 minutes in, I think he'll be fine, to be honest.
Absolutely. Like Tuesday, Saturday should be okay. I mean, Croatia is not close, but it's not that far either. Do you know what I mean? But Pice, what about you? What would be your back three for tomorrow? And if it is the same three, in which order would you have them?
I'm going to do something completely different, actually.
Okay.
Just predicted. I think he's going to. Actually, I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm going to go with Cucurella at left centre back.
Okay.
I'm going to put Koulibaly in the middle, and then between Chalobah and Aspie on the right centre. I don't think he's going to start Fofana for some reason. I think he could, because obviously you've got that big player in and you want to play him as much as possible, but I'm not sure whether he's going to throw him in. You know, I mean, Tuesday to Saturday is not bad, but he's going to start on Saturday, and Saturday to Tuesday is obviously, you know, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's not that long rest.
Saturday, and we'll have that as well this season.
I don't think he's going to play for Fofana. Just my prediction. And I can't see who else would. I mean, maybe
would it be
do.
Would you pick or would you play for Fofana?
No, I don't know, because I'm always cautious. Actually, I might go Chalobah, Koulibaly, and then Aspie, actually, because I don't think he's going to play Cucurella there. I think height might be an issue. I'm not sure. I'm really confused. I'm really conflicted, to be honest. Not confused, just conflicted. There's a lot of different things he might do. He could easily just go with a very, very strong team, but I'm not sure, you know, on the turnaround and things.
It is difficult. I will also be completely transparent. I don't know what exactly Dinamo Zagreb's strengths are, except Orsic. So I don't know, are they on average?
Yeah,
give
it to Orsic and shoot from 40 yards. I mean,
no. But are they good at set pieces as well? I don't know. I have no idea. So I couldn't tell you that can't really influence my decision, because I honestly just don't know. Charlie, though, I'll take it to you before we somehow need to find the decision on what we are going to put on screen. What's the back three you'd go for?
I would have gone Koulibaly in the middle, Fofana right centre back, and then Cucurella left centre back. But again, I wouldn't be that bothered if Chalobah did end up playing as well. But yeah, I think I'd go with Cucurella. That's what personally what I'd go with. But again, if Chalobah plays, it's not a disaster for me.
It's a tough one for me. I honestly don't know. I think this has validation. I personally, I disagree with Pies. I think Fofana will play again. It's also, especially if the wing back is not going to be Reece James, but either Ruben or even worse Aspie, then I hope this is Fofana, because otherwise I'm getting seriously concerned about Orsic. Because imagine this is Chalobah and this is Aspie. Orsic is going to run rings around us from here to bloody Tokyo. Like, it's going to be mental.
Not if James starts.
No. If James starts, it's fine. But
I mean, what about Reece James at right centre back? Because he might not have to do as much, sort of, you know, going up the pitch as much. Maybe that is a show. He's done that a few times
reaction?
Before.
Felix, Reece James right centre back again?
No, I'd rake my eyes out, to be honest. I'd be playing. Honestly, one option would be maybe playing Fofana central centre back and Koulibaly right centre back, only because maybe he's prone to protecting players, which is completely fine. And we all know what Orsic has, pace, and he might just want to play an experienced player at right centre back and not have to expose Fofana to Orsic straight away. Because imagine if he has one bad game, like that could affect him mentally. And also, it's nice to see Fofana in a different position, but I don't see it happening purely because I think he wants to know what Koulibaly can do at central centre back.
I think that is a possibility. I think it most certainly is.
You might as well just put like question marks across the back three, to be honest.
At that point,
it's the first time we don't know what to go for. Yeah,
I think this one is the difficult one. I'm pretty confident that Koulibaly and Fofana will play, and also that they should play. And most of us, other than
Koulibaly's played a lot as well, though, hasn't he? I feel like,
but he missed one with suspension, so you know.
Yeah, Dunno.
He's also a centre back, though. Surely centre backs, if they're not 38, they don't need to be rested. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're centre backs. How much do you run? Like, really? But I'm just not sure because of Cucurella. Now, I think in terms of because Cucurella might need a rest, because he is playing the position where he runs himself into the ground. So I'm like, that's why I'm a little bit hesitant putting him at left centre back. Even if it's then a less demanding position, it's still like if Chilwell plays instead of Cucurella, and then Cucurella started left centre back, needs to go to wing back for the rest of the game because I assume Chile won't play 90, even if he does start. And then on Saturday, Cucurella needs to start left wing back again, which I assume will happen. Maybe he's the one that could do with the rest a little bit more, but I'm just not as much on board as with Felix with this Chalobah left centre back situation. Now, he might have played at Lorient, fair enough. And maybe he has a point. It's just Chalobah what happened against Leicester, but to me, just look uncomfortable because he's quite heavily right-footed and he just doesn't know how to defend on the left. That's why I think that weird lunge that he tried against Vardy, I think he never even tries that on the right side because then he's more confident with his foot.
I guess we need to, or what we don't understand, none of us understand, is obviously Zagreb's team. We don't know if they have those, if their striker is a central quick runner in behind, or if he's like a target man. We don't really know that. So I think Chalobah did struggle because he does have lapses of concentration. Vardy was peeling off him well, but we don't know if Zagreb are going to be like that or not, or whether they're going to be more of a wide team. Whereas if that's the case, then I back Chalobah to defend those situations better than I do than a runner running in behind him. So as Felix was saying, it's quite hard actually to do a team we don't really know nothing about playing against.
Okay, so judging by who their striker last game was a Donny called Bruno Petkovic, and he's 6'4", so I doubt there's going to be a lot of runs in behind from their striker.
Right, so we need the tall back three then. Koulibaly definitely in the middle then, I reckon, if he's the striker.
Although Fofana is quite a bit taller than Koulibaly. But,
yeah, Koulibaly's more physical though. I'd rather him, to be honest.
Yeah. See, Orsic is obviously the one that worries me. Because otherwise I would just put Aspie at right centre-back and either Ruben or Reece James at right wing-back. But because I don't really want that, I also think Aspie would probably be much more comfortable as left centre-back than I think Chalobah is. But you know what? One of you, I can't remember which one it was, just put it in a question mark because we don't know. Now, Charlie, do we all agree that Chilwell gets to start this one?
Yeah, I think so. Mate, I was delighted for him to come off the bench against West Ham and have such an important contribution. I think it'd be big for his confidence, getting a goal, getting an assist. And it's been difficult for him this season. He's coming back from injury. He spent big money on Cucurella. He started the majority of the games and done really well. I think this is a big boost for Chile, and having that competition in that place is only going to push both of them on to better levels of performance. But I think this is a perfect game to get Chilwell back in the starting lineup and get him as close to 90 minutes as possible.
Absolutely. Like, I would probably say give him an hour, 70 minutes, then bring Cucurella on. I think it would probably be the best thing. Felix, would you agree? Were you happy with Chile when he came on? I mean, I assume everyone was, but did you take it as much of a positive as a lot of other people did? Or do you think it's just he had a good offensive moment or game, do you know what I mean? But does that mean he's ready for the rest? Because he didn't look ready against Southampton, and he didn't look ready against Everton, if we're honest with ourselves.
Well, for me, I was so happy to see him come on. And for me, it highlighted what a left wing back at Chelsea actually needs to do. And it's not anything to disrespect Cucurella, but I noticed it really highlighted to me how much he actually isn't the most attacking left wing back at this moment in time. I feel like he does most of his work in the second, third, and first third of the pitch. His ability to keep possession, technically pass around is brilliant, but his runs in the box, his positioning in the box, and even just anywhere in the final third is not absolutely elite yet. Which is completely
are you
fine.
sure? Graham Souness said he's not good technically. Are you sure about that?
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't believe those words. Like, he's one of the most tidy footballers I've seen in a while. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I just mean like Chilwell's run in the FA Cup final, that run for that goal, like that's elite movement. And it took him over a month out of the side with Alonso playing to master that in training. It took Reece James, to be honest, for me, about half a season in the summer before he was absolutely elite wing back, taking on players with no fear. So it's absolutely no problem that Cucurella's like that. Chilwell isn't physically ready. He doesn't look on the pace, but he's already shown he has that quality with that goal. And the only way to get the other parts back is by playing him. And this game is the perfect way to play him.
Before I move on to Pies with this question, Felix, quick question. Do you see a possibility that Cucurella is has been like that so far because this is the first time he's at obviously a huge club. He doesn't want to like make mistakes, leave his position because of overcommitting. As this expensive signing, which I'm sure added a little bit of pressure to him. And also, like I say, just his first big club. Do you think that with a little bit more time at Chelsea, he could get that attacking side out of himself more a little bit? Or do you think he will always be like this?
Well, no, I think he can absolutely improve. Like that's the whole point, that you develop as a player. I don't blame him at all for not having these.
Do you think it requires development, or do you think it's just him deciding to do it?
Definitely development. It's like why? If you're a left back, you grew up as a left back. He said himself, like he said factually, I'm best as a left back and a back four. Why would you wouldn't think to yourself that you'd be making runs in the box like a striker? I mean, maybe one excuse you can give him is maybe Tuchel said that side of the pitch is going to be more possession based and try and open up the pitch for Reece to get forwards and get in the box like we saw against Spurs. Maybe shifting over the play gives Reece more space. So maybe that's just something we don't understand, but it's completely natural. No one should take that as a criticism that he maybe doesn't have that extra attacking quality.
And he's been very good defensively. Like he has the highest number of blocks in the Premier League, which doesn't show that much for how we control games. If a Chelsea left wing back has the highest number of blocks in the Premier League, but sure. Paisto, I assume you agree with Chilwell, or would you throw a spanner in the works and stick with Cucurella?
No, I'd go Chilwell for this one. Probably what you were saying makes sense in terms of if Chilwell can't play 90, then Cucurella comes in maybe off the bench. Yeah, I think another thing I was going to say, very interesting, because Tuchel said that Chilwell keeps telling him that he's 100% ready. And Tuchel has said, well, I don't think he is, in terms of like his fluidity and stuff like that. So
timing, you said, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like Chilwell thinks he can play 90, but I don't know if Tuchel thinks that. So I think he will come off at about 65, 70 minutes.
Could well be the case. Let's move on over to the right-hand side. Now, Charlie, do you think Reece James is going to get rested now just after? Let's talk about it for a second. Reece James signed a new 6. Is it 6 plus 1 year or 5 plus 1 year? I think it's 6 plus 1 year deal.
It's just 6, I think.
Oh, is it just 6 in the end?
Yeah, they changed it because they released it originally as a 5-year deal with an option for a 6th, and about half hour later they just changed it and put 6-year contracts. So I don't know if there's an option for a 7th or not.
I just saw it reported a few days ago before it was made official that it would be 6 plus 1, but that could of course be wrong. But at the end of the day, it's probably the best news of the summer, quite frankly. As much as I'm happy with a lot of the signings we've made, very few things make me happy than Reece James staying at the club and him committing to the club long term. Great news. Him being apparently the highest paid defender in the club's history, which says something. Now, of course, wages were a little bit different back when John Terry was in his prime, who was obviously our best centre-back and defender, or even Ashley Cole. But still, to be that, and have you heard anyone complain? No. See, when you give good players good money, and especially, I'm a big fan of this, I'd much rather give a player who's been at the club and actually performed for us big wages than I do to new signings, because for new signings, there's much bigger risk attached. Often they move leagues. Even if they come from the Premier League, they move clubs. Things could be so different. They potentially might not perform the way we hope they perform. With Reece James, we know how he will perform. He's only going to get better, if anything. So him getting high wages, I think we're all going to be happy with. But Charlie, do you think he starts tomorrow? Or do you think it's going to be a Ruben there? Or potentially Aspie?
Well, I hope it's not Aspie. No, I think he starts. I'm always a believer that, start your strongest or stronger team, and then once you've got the game wrapped up, you can then bring your players off and rest them, rather than the opposite way around, having to bring them on to chase a game. So yeah, I'd stick Reece James, and I see no reason why not to. He's a young lad, he's fit, he can recover quickly. It's a little bit of a quick turnaround from Saturday's game, but again, they're not play Tuesday, we're early kickoff tomorrow as well. We play early Saturday, but it's kind of 3 days to recover. I think that's plenty of time for someone his age. So yeah, I'd stick him in and keep him on. And if the game's wrapped up with half hour to go, we can just bring him off.
Fair enough. Pice, what do you think? You seemed very adamant earlier that he shouldn't play. Do you stick with that?
Yeah, I'm going to put Ruben there. I don't want James playing in this match. I think it's a bit meaningless. I think if we can't beat Zagreb without Reece James, then we've got serious issues. Of course, I don't know everything.
Serious issues. We're well aware of this, bro.
Yeah, I don't know everything on Zagreb, but I don't feel the need to start him. We don't need to start him every single game. Give Ruben a chance there. He's played well there, and maybe if he can come on last 20, 30 minutes if we are struggling. But I don't want him playing wing back in this game with high intensity runs and things like that. I do worry a little bit because Orsic is down that side, but again, maybe that's a reason to play, maybe Fofana or something at right centre back, and obviously not Ruben and then Azpi, because maybe defensively that's not the best.
Absolutely. Now, one thing that should be highlighted, obviously, Reece missed the Southampton game. Now, he missed it due to illness. Now, whether that means he now has less energy because illnesses do that, they drain the body of energy, or whether that means he now has extra energy because he sat one game out and had rest instead, even if it was rest while being ill. I guess it's to be debated. Felix, we've had one shout for James and one shout for Ruben. What would you go for?
I don't know. Let me think. I think I'd go for Ruben. No, I'm not going to go for Ruben. I think I'll go for James only because I also think Ruben's going to get injured if you play him. So I feel like it's a lose-lose.
See, this I agree with. I think Ruben needs to rest more than James does.
I think James, get him off even at half-time or 60 minutes in. Honestly, bring on Pulisic because I want to see that guy suffer and play right wing back just for USMNT.
My chat is not going to be happy with you, bro. I'm telling you.
Not on this channel, bro. Not on this channel.
But fair play. You know what? Now that I've thought about it, Ruben has played more games than James this season, hasn't he? Because Ruben's played every game, if I'm not mistaken.
Tomorrow, when the lineup comes out, Zakaria right wing back.
Watch.
Actually, I think maybe one thing that we could do is the hybrid right wing back Ziyech role. I mean, I don't mind it. And again,
but against Orsic on their strong side, that's why.
But isn't Orsic if we play for Fofana, I don't feel like the right wing back gets that involved directly with the left winger unless you play Reece James directly man to man like he did against Son. I don't think the right wing back affects the left winger that much. They're so high up the pitch, and Fofana's good enough, especially if Koulibaly's at central centre back. They can cover for me.
You'd think so, absolutely, but you've got to think if Ziyech plays the hybrid role, that means on the ball, Fofana would have to be a right back, not a centre back. And then that would probably mean this won't be Fofana, but Azpi.
Well, if it's a 3-5-2, you can put Mason Mount at centre mid, and we know he has defensive mindset. He's a big runner, he can cover those spaces. I think it's possible. It's just another option if you really don't want to play Reece James, and then you also think you're going to risk Ruben. Then it's not the worst option in the world. It's better than watching Pulisic fall over for about 45 minutes. So,
absolutely, it is true. All right, let's get to the midfield then. So far, we have it as a double pivot because, well, I feel like that's what we decided on earlier. I think that one's still up for grabs whether we go as a 2-1 or 1-2. But if that is a double pivot, now Jorginho didn't start the last game. Does he start this game? Now, he's probably a little bit more suited to European football than he is to Premier League football. So, Pies, does he start?
Who?
Jorginho?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he didn't start last game, so I'd start him this game, yeah.
And who would you put next to him?
Now, this is where everyone's going to disagree, but I think Zakaria is going to play there.
You think he will start? And would you start him too?
Yes, because I don't want Kovacic to start this game because I want him on the weekend.
I don't want Gallagher to start.
And I don't want Gallagher to start. Yeah.
I mean, hey, if Zakaria is a shot, I would be very surprised. I mean, the guy when did he first train with the team? When did we sign him? Well, deadline day, very late. So he trained the next day with us, which was Friday, yeah. Then obviously,
I think he was waiting. It was because he was waiting for his work permit to come anyway. That's why he couldn't be involved at all on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he probably wouldn't have been regardless.
No.
But, yeah, it's a weird one. But Charlie, do you agree that Jorginho didn't play the last game? Maybe Ruben could do with the rest. So does Jorginho come in for this one? And who would you play next to him?
Yeah, I think Jorginho probably does come in for this one. I agree with Pice. I think he probably is slightly better suited to European football than in the Premier League. I would expect him to play. I think Tuchel will pick Kovacic as well. Obviously, he's back in Croatia. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think so. I think so. He's in Croatia, and
I'll be fuming if he starts tomorrow. You don't need to play him, man. I don't want our best players playing this game.
I think Tuchel will pick Kovacic. I'd love to see Zakaria, but I personally think it's too soon for him. I expect him, if we do see him...
Play Gallagher over Kovacic. Don't start Kovacic. I mean, with his injuries, issues. So I can't believe he started him on the weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. He got subbed off on the weekend, didn't he? But, I mean, yeah, look, Jorginho, definitely. I'd be shocked if Zakaria started. I think Ruben could probably do the rest. And then that leaves you what? By eliminating those.
Gallagher, maybe
Gallagher.
Mount.
I know it's a bit of a gamble, but I probably would go Kovacic. I just think a Jorginho Kovacic is a bit better than a Jorginho Gallagher. And I saw that against Leeds, and it was terrible.
I think Pice is right. Like, think about it.
It's true, yeah.
He should just come back from a huge injury where he's close to surgery. We just played him in a game where he didn't look comfortable. Like, how can we start him again? I mean, let me go back. Like, how nice would it be right now to have Billy Gilmore to play this game? That's what I'll say, instead of flogging him off for 9 million. But, you know.
Do you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna put Gallagher in there. I'm just gonna do it.
But then the attacking mid needs to drop in so that it's not double pivot for me.
Yeah, so that's why I'd then probably play Mount so he can drop in.
Okay, fair. Felix, though, who would you pick next to Jorginho? Assuming you would also pick Jorginho, considering he didn't play the last game.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I didn't think of it like Pice did. Like, I just threw Kovacic in, but it actually makes zero sense in the world to play Kovacic. You're just asking for an injury, to be honest. So for me, I mean, could we try Cucurella as a midfielder? I mean, like, this guy is technically, he's good on the ball.
You could probably try it, but will Tuchel do it? Definitely not.
No, absolutely not. For me, I think you just have to throw Gallagher in there and put Mount in as deep.
Maybe
as
he
possible
finds the Europe a little bit easier too. Maybe.
No.
Add more space.
I think basically just tuck them in, let them become really compact, let the wing backs come in inverted, and just really, really try and make that midfield as solid as possible, because it can get run through so easily. But we don't have many options, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned of this Jorginho-Gallagher combination, because it seems like Gallagher is so erratic that he highlights Jorginho's weaknesses more than other players next to Jorginho do.
100%, but that's why I think you shouldn't have them. I know that's the formation we've chosen, but that's why you should set it up as a 3-5-2. It still isn't great, by the way. I'm not saying this is ideal, but if you have Mount and Gallagher actually next to each other, rather than how it's going to look if Mount is that player 11, like, you can't have a double pivot. You need a 3-man midfield for me.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone thinks Chukwuemeka's going to play, is it? So,
well, I mean,
so.
I haven't thought about it, but maybe we should.
I mean, they took him, so who knows? I don't know.
I just don't understand why he's not been used at all this season when Tuchel was saying that he's ready to be part of the first team group. I don't get it. He hasn't been used once.
If you look at Southampton, like, I know people say blah, 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 but what could have Chukwuemeka come on and done that was less than, I don't know, what Pulisic came on and done? Like, he could have come on and just done something. But I think this game, Chukwuemeka needs to come off the bench. And hopefully for once, we actually have a relatively comfortable lead that we can do that without worrying too much. And for me, there has to be something in his contract.
That all three of you are slightly underestimating Dinamo Zagreb here.
Maybe, but I think it was.
When did we last have an easy Champions League game? Think about it.
There has to be some sort of clause in Chukwuemeka's contract that he's playing a minimum amount of appearances in this game. Because why would he have come to Chelsea? When his problem was first team opportunities.
Maybe it's one of the add-ons that we have to pay Villa if he plays too many games in his first season or whatever.
Because, like, if you look at Samuel Edozie at Southampton, like, he comes off the bench from Man City and immediately, like, they're all gassing him. He's an incredible player. And it's not a surprise. All these academy players are brilliant players. They just need a chance. And he put that picture of Edozie on his story. Like, he's seeing all his mates, like, go out in the Premier League and playing. So he must have thought this decision through, and there must be, like, such an extensive plan for him to play. So hopefully this is the game when we see him off the bench, to be honest.
Fair. Now, I will throw a shout in there, and you can all agree or disagree with this. I would do something a little bit more interesting. Now, I said similar things for the last game already. We didn't do it, so I want to see it again. I would play... Now, I would also not have a problem with we play Mount instead of Gallagher. I think we could do that with a back three behind them. If we have to play a back three already, because our manager really likes it for some unbeknownst reason. If he really likes it, then might as well make use of it and play someone like Mason Mount in a deeper position, which adds another attacker, even though you have three defenders. Now, the problem is that Jorginho would be the one next to Mount, and if Mount pushes too much, that exposes Jorginho again. But you have that problem with Gallagher all the same anyway, but at least Mount is better than Gallagher, is my thinking. But I would like to play Havertz as a 10 behind, or like not a creative 10, because Pice was telling me, but Havertz is not creative, which is true. But none of our players are creative. So at that point, you might as well try Havertz in a different position, right? And not always this striker. When everyone calls it a false nine, Havertz isn't playing as a false nine. Havertz hasn't played as a false nine in a long time. Havertz doesn't
He's a
drop
false
deep.
footballer.
Maybe. But Havertz plays up front like any out-and-out striker ever would. He doesn't play like a false nine. As a false nine, he'd be way better. But he's not deployed as that, in my opinion. I would like to see him there. I don't think we give Sterling a rest because I don't want to have a situation tomorrow where we're having a stinker. Start Sterling. If we're 3-0 up, take him off at halftime. Like, if it's that easy, then no problem anyway. But even if it's easy, playing all the bad players or all the not so good players will make it easy. We'll make it difficult for ourselves, no matter how bad Zagreb are. Let's be honest with ourselves. So I would play. That would be my front three. I would like to see that. You can shift around. You can obviously put them two go up top and Sterling drop in behind and stuff. I think it would be quite nice, personally. Totally fair if all of you think I'm being absolutely mental, but I would just like to see something different. And no one can tell me exactly what we've tried so far in attack has worked. So why not try something different? Why not? I would quite like it. I would quite like it. Pies, number one, what do you think of my idea? And what would be your idea?
I would go Mount as 10, and then Havertz and Broja up front. Personally, I think we should rest Sterling in this game, bring him off the bench. I think he's played a lot lately.
He has played a lot, but isn't that what he came here for? Didn't he complain at City when he was dropped?
Yeah, well, he'll be complaining if he gets overplayed and gets injured. So, I mean...
Yep. It is true. It is true. But I feel like we can't, we're going to have to be realistic, right? We're going to go, we'll have a long season ahead. We're not going to be able to rest that many players every midweek game, right? So
I don't think we should play a lot of our starters in this particular game. I think this game should be should be for a lot of the non-starters or rotational players to show what they're capable of in a tough away game. Is my thinking with this, but I feel like he's going to go completely opposite to me and probably play our strongest possible team, which would be ludicrous.
Yeah, maybe Chilwell instead of Cucurella, and otherwise the strongest team.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked. Well, and Thiago Silva obviously was left at home. Charlie, number one, what would be your front three? Again, you can also change it to 2 wide players, 1 central player. Did you like my idea? Havertz behind 2 others, or do you want to do what Pice just explained? I mean, you were talking about Mason Mount earlier, weren't you? So it seems like you're going to want to do that.
I mean, I probably would play Mount in that position, and then I'd probably have Broja. I'd definitely have Broja, and I don't know. Like, I would play Sterling, but then he's played a lot of football as well, and you would like to think that we could get by against Dinamo without having to use Sterling. But I'll probably go Broja and Sterling. But I mean, personally, I would like to see Havertz and Broja as a front two, just to see what it would be like and see if there's kind of any connection there, any link, whether it helps Havertz actually play a bit better or not. So, yeah, I'll Mount definitely, Broja definitely. For me, toss up between Havertz and Sterling. I'd like to see the Havertz-Broja link up, but again, I think Sterling's going to be our best forward, so it probably makes sense to play him, even though he's played a lot. Just get the game wrapped up and then we can rest him.
Okay. I think we all need to agree that Broja starts, because if he doesn't start tomorrow,
when is he going to start? If he doesn't start tomorrow, when's this guy getting a chance? Well, he's signed a new 6-year contract. This guy needs opportunities, and this is a perfect one for him.
Imagine he starts tomorrow, plays super well, scores a hat-trick, and then Saturday's dropped anyway because Aubameyang starts.
Well, you could have a Broja or Aubameyang front two on Saturday.
Yeah, but mate, our manager is still Thomas Tuchel.
That wouldn't be that bad, would it, Broja or Aubameyang?
No, it wouldn't be bad at all.
It'd be all right, wouldn't it? Yeah. No, I'd never do it.
Felix, number one, what do you think of my idea of Havertz behind a Sterling Broja? But also, what would be your front three? And again, you can also put it as a 2-1 if you prefer that. But I know you, if anything, prefer a 5-2 anyway as a whole thing.
Well, in this game, I hate the idea that you gave of Havertz as a cam behind the 2, but only in this game. I would love to see Havertz behind the 2, just as a testing thing. But when you look behind in this game and you see Jorginho and Gallagher, that's when I'm like, no, you can't do that at all. You will expose our midfield. So for me, you make it a 3-man midfield. You get Jorginho, Gallagher, and Mount as a 3-man. And personally, I would start Havertz and Broja. As you said, Havertz, a lot of people say he plays false 9, just like you said, but actually he really hasn't been playing false 9. He's just a striker. And I think when you play him with Broja, they can both interchange and he can easily play as a false 9. I mean, it's very template, but imagine Havertz, he's been really good recently at holding up the ball aerially, holds up the ball, plays it to Mount and puts Brozier through. I mean, I know Mount's maybe not the best creatively, but something like that would be a nice dynamic. And as we've tried in the past with Havertz Werner, Havertz Lukaku, Werner Lukaku, I think it's always worth giving these two strikers formations a chance just to see if something sparks.
Fair. Absolutely. Now, maybe you make a fair point with that against Zagreb, it's not ideal. At the same time, I'm like, well, Zagreb will probably be defensive, as most Premier League teams will. But because Zagreb, unlike the Premier League teams who are used to being defensive against all the good teams they play against, Zagreb being the best team in Croatia, they're not used to parking the bus, right? So if they do that, they're probably not as good at it as West Ham are, who do it most weeks, right?
And also, I would say that when you talk about Orsic and you always say, oh, the right centre back, we can't start Aspi, and I completely agree. I mean, it's the left wingers are not just one-dimensional. Like, they can pick up the ball and run straight through the midfield gap. And if Gallagher and Jorginho are the pivot with Havertz there, there'll be a huge gap that Orsic will just run through for me.
See, I think that is a fair point to make, but at the same time, I'm like, what's the whole point of a back three then? Like, I think when you play a back three,
because it's the only way to protect how fluid our midfield is and how fluid in a bad way, how easy it is to bypass that. Because if we had two, especially if we started to absorb,
I agree with that.
Too many holes.
What I think the whole point of the back three with a double pivot in front of it is, as a manager, I think you're aware that you're going to be more susceptible to transition in midfield, but instead you are more stable at the back when those transitions hit the defenders. While in a back four, every now and then, and in three-man midfield, every now and again, you're still going to get beat on transition in midfield. That happens to every team, no matter how good you are. But then behind that midfield that just got beaten on transition, you only have two centre-backs. While we at least put three there. So like, I think Thomas Tuchel is very much aware, and Felix, trust me, I've been plenty critical of Thomas Tuchel. I'm not trying to say just because that's his thinking it's good, but I'm pretty sure he's very much aware that we get beat on transition easily, but he's very accepting of that because he's like, well, I have a back three behind it who should stop the transition after that. You know, I think that's the idea.
It's not really relevant to this game, but that's my whole point. That's so unsustainable. You can't keep putting your defense under so much pressure, and the way to stop that is by signing a defense midfielder and maybe allowing us to transition into a different formation, or not even a different formation, just actually have a stable defense midfielder. But he decided not to do that until deadline day, and it was a panic signing. So I'm wondering where the priorities actually are. What does he actually think is an issue? And I wish that these journalists in press conferences actually asked the questions that were interesting, rather than just asking about, I don't know, Dinamo Zagreb as a team. Like, he says the same thing every time. We're going to respect the opponent no matter what. Like, great. Give us some actual information. Like,
we don't even know if Sakari is an actual the DM that we're looking for either as well.
We didn't
the first thing.
How has no one asked him that question?
The first thing Zakaria said. The first thing Zakaria said was he talked about his attacking, how he liked attacking more than defending. So I mean,
yeah, I'm an offensive thinking player. I'm
right?
Like, well, fuck.
Fucking brilliant! Like, fantastic. Like, we've also got players that, you know, like attacking but can be put in defensive situations. Doesn't mean they're any good. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't know.
I also really wanted to have an answer to just the Billy Gilmour and Ethan Ampadu situation. I know he spoke about Billy Gilmour, but it wasn't good enough for me. I wanted you to ask him why one Norwich loan where you sent him to die pretty much in a terrible Norwich side because you wanted him to play under your best mate, is you've decided that he's not good enough and just to ship him off the academy without any single chance. And yet you had Loftus-Cheek in your squad last season who got relegated with Fulham and was one of the worst players I've ever watched in my life. Ross Barkley, who wasn't making squads for Aston Villa. Like, that thinking that Norwich, he got in the relegated.
Ruben at least got in the Norwich side, to be fair. Billy didn't even get in the side.
He just played as a right winger and every Fulham fan booed him off the pitch every single game. I mean, same with Billy, but like, also I'd say a bit of a difference is that Billy Gilmour's play style is much more predicated on a good team with possession than Ruben. Even though Ruben would do better in a possession side, he can still get away because he still has factual quality of running through players. And at Fulham, he couldn't do anything. He was awful.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. It's tough. And I think, unfortunately, the main issue with Billy Gilmour is that he was also misprofiled. Billy Gilmour is not a 6. Look at the size of him. He's not a 6. He's an 8. Look, everything Billy Gilmour, and I've said this so many times on the stream, on this channel. And I know it's also like then that we'll just add another 8 to our team where we have too many 8s and play none other than the last game. But look at him. He's the perfect box-to-box player. He's got reasonable amount of pace. He can tackle just because he's Scottish, quite frankly. He can clearly dribble and pass, but he's too small to be a proper 6. Just is what it is, because he's even smaller than Jorginho, because they're both tiny in frame, but Jorginho is like a whole head, a whole foot nearly taller than Billy Gilmore. Obviously, he's not. I'm exaggerating.
Also,
Billy Gilmore
is actually able to move forwards, like in terms of dribbling. Like he can dribble and skip. For me, like he fits the perfect like Thiago mold that you see at Liverpool as a deep line playmaker, as the left 8. That's where I play him. It's just it's just unnecessary what happened to him, to be honest. And even like stuff aside from that, like the way he's treated some of the academy players. Like I was told that he organised a team dinner after the academy players were sent off with Harvey Vale, Billy Gilmore, and just didn't invite the academy players. And apparently there was a big like.
When was that, last season?
No. It was when Billy Gilmore, Harvey Vale, and Tino Andrew were sent away. They were going to be sent the day after, and they went on a team meal, and he told them they weren't allowed to come. And apparently that caused a bit of a problem because it's just incredibly unnecessary. What was the point of
that? It's just unnecessary. I don't know if that's what you're saying is true. I haven't seen it.
Well, I mean, I can't say it's 100% true because I heard it from someone else who heard it from someone else. So, but anyway, the factual stuff still is relevant.
Yeah. It's a weird one. I don't really know what to do with our midfield. The problem with our midfield is that we don't know what formation we will play anyway. And it drastically depends on what formation we're going to play as to which midfielders we should have and should keep and should sell and should buy. It makes a big difference. But our manager doesn't seem to have decided or be decided what he wants unless his only plan is, okay, buy Declan Rice next summer. But
he said that every summer.
Well, that's true. But even if it was his plan, let's assume for a second it's true, right? Surely then you would have to adapt the team to playing in a completely different formation by next season with right. If that is his plan, again, I don't know if it is, and I have no idea if it is, and we'll only find out next summer if it is. But if it was, surely you should already prepare the whole rest of the team rather than next season. We have to prepare for everything new, because if we prepare for a new system without Rice and then we just slot Rice in, then we would just get better. While if we then next summer have to start working on a new system once Rice is here, then it will take us a few weeks and months to get good at that in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So I don't understand. I mean, the Edson Alvarez at least made some sense. Okay, we didn't get him, but at least I saw a little bit of logic there.
We'll get him in January. I'm very.
But then what's the point?
I don't think. I don't disagree, because I think we'll be selling
back up to who?
I think we'll be selling one of Jorginho or Kante in January and getting Edson Alvarez. I'm pretty sure of that.
But maybe we don't end up with Rice and Alvarez is that guy. Yeah, maybe Rice doesn't come. Maybe Alvarez is that guy they want in DM.
Maybe.
I mean, Rice
if he is brilliant, because he's 50 million cheaper if he's as good.
I wish I could genuinely get the truth on Declan Rice from Tom Zoo. I just asked him a plain question, like, do you actually like this guy? Because you hear so many different things about this. You constantly hear that he loves him, but then he's spending the same amount of money on different players. Like, it doesn't make sense, but it's funny, to be honest.
Absolutely. It's just very, very strange. All right. Last thing before we round this one out. We just gathered earlier that out of the last 10 times, we lost or didn't win the first Champions League group game 5 times. So we're going to turn that around, Charlie. What do you reckon? Are we going to win tomorrow? And what's your score prediction?
Well, I hope so. Like we've got to get off to a winning start in the group. You don't want to be on the back foot after one game in the group. You just want to get qualification done and dusted as soon as possible. So, yeah, I actually think we'll do reasonably well in this game. I'm going to go for I think we actually might get a clean sheet, first one since the start of the season. So, yeah, I'll go 2-0.
Okay. Felix, what about you?
I don't think it's going to go well. I think we're probably going to draw 1-1. It's going to be a really boring game. Then we'll nick a goal in the 60th minute. Everyone will be like, oh, well, at least we got the goal. And then we'll just concede anyway. And it will be 1-1. Another drop there.
See, the unfortunate thing is, I would say, oh, you idiot, you don't be so pessimistic, you're definitely wrong. But it makes so much sense. That's just what we do. It's what we did all of the second half of last season already. It's not like we only started doing this yesterday. But Pice, you more confident than Felix?
Mate, I have no idea how good Zagreb are. I think we could either beat them 4-0, we could lose 2-0, or we could scrape a win. I don't know. So my prediction isn't informed on anything of any knowledge whatsoever. So I'm just going to go 2-1 Chelsea. Yeah, 2-1 Chelsea. I think again might be. You know, we've been winning 2-1 a lot lately, so maybe it'll be another back-to-back 2-1. I can see like a boring 1-1 draw though, or to be honest with you, Chelsea at the moment, I can see all scenarios. I don't fucking know what Chelsea we're going to get. So, yeah.
Well, as much as this isn't useful, I could see the 1-1 that I said, but I could also see a 4-0, just like after Tuchel's.
I could
done
also
with the
see us
transfer window.
conceding like 2 early goals and being like, shit, like this is a huge crowd. We're not ready for this. We've underestimated them. So, I don't know, to be honest, Laurenz.
Anything, man.
It's not helpful.
Going to be difficult. Just think of us when we play.
Coin, bro. Flip a
when
coin.
we play lower league oppositions in like the FA Cup, and they have like a sellout crowd, and we struggle. And they are nowhere near as good, these championship teams, as Dinamo Zagreb. Now, I know it's Dinamo Zagreb, but they're still in the Champions League for a reason, right? Like, obviously, I know these lesser countries, it's a little bit different with the smaller leagues, but still, they're still better than championship sides. And how often have we struggled against championship sides in FA Cup rounds, in League Carabao Cup rounds? Do you know what I mean? So I don't think it's going to be easy. Unfortunately, I have to disagree with Charlie. I don't see a clean sheet coming, no matter whether it's Mendy or Kepengo. It's just it doesn't feel like we get clean sheets these days. I'm going to agree with Pice. I think another 2-1. I have hope for a 3-1 because my hope is that Zagreb overcommit at the end and then we get a third. That's my hope. So I'm going to say 3-1, I'm going to say 3-1, but it's difficult to really judge. Like, even when you look at stats, like, okay, they score a few set piece goals, but because they're not a different Premier League team or not in a top league, it's very difficult. It's also like when we look at Red Bull Salzburg, they play against I was going to say farmers. It's not even farmers, just random village people. Like, that's so Austria Bundesliga, just some random villagers involved, and no one understands why. They're better than some much bigger clubs that are in much lower divisions for some reason. But you can't really go by their stats from their local leagues because that's not exactly applicable to a Premier League Chelsea opponent, right? So it's so different. Spurs lost there. Like, yeah, we laugh at Spurs. They're always bad in Europe, blah, blah, blah. But Spurs lost there. If Spurs can lose there, we can lose there. So I just hope we take it seriously. Like I say, I'm going to say 3-1. Ladies and gentlemen, I haven't reminded you even once this whole stream to subscribe. So please actually do subscribe. We still have 240 people watching. So please get subscribed. Under to 20,000 subscribers. So massively appreciate it. If you could hit that big red subscribe button down below. Smash the like button as well on your way out. Let's get to at least, well, let's say 100 likes, but ideally 150 on your way out. Just one click of a button. Doesn't cost you any time. Doesn't cost you any money. But before I round this out completely, please do follow all of my wonderful guests. Pice, of course, his Twitter, his website, chelseafc365.com, as always, in the description. Charlie, of course, his channel, The Blues Brothers, and Felix's channel, which is just named after you, isn't it, Felix?
Yep, exactly. New video out about an hour ago, so go ahead.
There you go. Go check that out. Is there a preview to the Zagreb game?
No, it's not. It is a Chelsea transfer window review going through contracts, outgoings, incomings, academy, everything like that.
Very good. So if you're interested, people, link is down in the description. Check out Felix's channel and subscribe to him. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stop this here. Thank you guys for watching. Let's hope we don't continue this or, add a 6th in 11, not winning the first group game stat. Can't be having that. So let's get a dub. Let's make, like Thomas Tuchel keeps saying, our season starts now, when he was talking about Saturday. So let's hope he's right. And if our season starts now, no more dropping points in no matter what the competition. So let's get it done. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you